Certified Gran Turismo Championships coming to you live from the Tokyo Motor Show. We're just one stop away from our grand final, which is going to be held in Monaco next month. And we thought, what better place to come than to be surrounded by Japan's top motoring enthusiasts. That's why we're here. They are super excited, and we've seen some of the biggest crowds we ever have at any of our GT championships. So yesterday was all about team-based racing, the manufacturer series, but today is all about national pride, as it's the Nations Cup. We thought we'd cast our eye over someone who's from Japan, Miyazono, who's only been at 2 events so far, but has placed top 5. Definitely one to watch in going forward into this. And I think everyone is just going to fight to be in a really good position to go into that grand final next month. I think it's time we kicked it off. Let's chuck it over to Tom and Jimmy.
Hello and welcome to Tokyo. Welcome to World Tour 5 on the 2019 FIA Certified Gran Turismo Championships. My name is Tom Brooks. Alongside me, Jimmy Broadbent here to guide you through the action today. Jimmy, I mean, it's been mega so far this weekend. What do you reckon for Nations?
Well, Nations is the cutthroat part of the series. Manufacturer's a bit more of a team effort. Nations very much an individual effort. And we've seen already from qualifying coming up that it's been been quite close. We'll get into that very shortly, of course. But yeah, Nations always a good laugh, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely right. Well, let's just take a recap, shall we, and view the season so far for 2019 in the FIA Gran Turismo Championships, and just guide you through everything that's happened. We started, of course, in Paris back in March. We then headed on to Nürburgring for World Tour 2. We're in New York for World Tour 3 back in July, then into Salzburg for our most recent World Tour event. We're here in Tokyo for World Tour 5 in October. Then, towards the end of November, we're in Monaco for the World Final, as Julia was mentioning in the opening of her show. So it is going to be very exciting to see how it all gets on between these drivers here in the Nations Cup today. We've seen Igor Fraga winning the Nations Cup twice. We've had Nicolas Rubelar winning back in Paris. Last time out, we finally got Mick Hazal winning. Who's your money on today?
That's a tough one. You know what? I'm going to just completely dismiss all those three guys and say probably a Japanese driver, I think. They are, for once, not jet-lagged. They're here at their full power, so to speak. And Miyazono has been on an absolute rise, an absolute fantastic run of form from him. So surely now that ends off with a win in his home country?
Well, we'll see. I hope so. I mean, let's take a closer look, shall we, and get you up to speed with the format of the Nations Cup here for the FIA Gran Turismo Championships. So we've got 24 drivers who have qualified for the Nations Cup. They go into a top 6 qualifying session. The top 6 drivers determines the grid positions for the semi-finals, the top 3 positions in their respective groups. The 24 drivers are equally split into 2 groups of 12, as you can see. The top 4 will go through to each final, and then positions 11 and 12, we say goodbye to them. So we then have positions 5 to 10 from each group going into a repechage, a last chance survival race then, which gives us our 12 drivers for the Nations Cup, as the top 4 from the repechage will go through into the final. So it's all to play for here, and we know how exciting and frantic especially that repechage race can get. So. Yeah. Fireworks aplenty, I'm sure.
I think some people tune in just for the repechage. I mean, we've had a couple of crazy scenarios there as well. But of course, if you are one of the serious contenders, you don't want to be anywhere near that. You want to be going through in the first round, be in that top 4, get through nice and early, and then just focus on that grand final. Yeah,
that is the important thing, isn't it? And don't forget, of course, if you want to keep up to speed with everything that's going on, you can join us here on the stream and on social media. And if you're on social media, why not vote for your Michelin Driver of the Day as well? Hashtag Michelin FIA GTC to get involved with us here. Let us know who you think the driver is guys that are standing out from the crowd for one reason or another. And yeah, you never know, might end up being driver of the day, and we'll be talking to them at some point, I think, on the Extra Lap show.
Yeah, which you will hang around for, by the way. That'll be at the end of the show, but we'll get through that later on. We have a lot of racing before we get to that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of racing to come, of course, with the two semi-finals, the Repechage and the Gran final to come here in Tokyo as well. We'll be crowning a new Nations Cup winner, which is going to set things up really nicely, actually, for that World Final in Monaco.
Exactly. I mean, this is the last in a very long series of World Tour events. I said yesterday, it's crazy to be on the 5th one right now. We'll get back to that later on, though, because Kazunori Yamauchi, of course, producer of the Gran Turismo series, is up on stage right now talking to the crowd.
Yeah, we can just see Kazunori Yamauchi. We'll try and translate it as best as we can for you. And he was talking yesterday about the Manufacturer Series, saying how yesterday was all about fighting with one another, and today about the Nations Cup, as they it's all about the countries essentially. So yeah, it's a bit of a different playing field for these drivers. Set to be some exciting racing. And Kaz saying that he always tells the drivers to have some great racing and yeah, show everybody what you can do. This is the platform to show it here in the World Tour events on the international stage. And well, you never know what it might lead to, but we'll get on to that in a few moments' time. In the meantime, though, it's time for the national anthem of our home country, Japan.
It's a national anthem. Could you stand up, please?
Here in Tokyo then, ahead of World Tour 5 for the 2019 FIA Certified Gran Turismo Championships. You can hear our host down on the floor getting the crowd all riled up and ready for the action ahead of semi-final 1. You see our Japanese commentators down the right-hand side there just on the stage. Yamada-san and Nakajima-san down there, and we're getting the thoughts, I'm sure, of them at some point throughout the course of this afternoon. But yeah, it's going to be pretty exciting ahead of semi-final A, but of course we've got the top 6 qualifier to get out of the way first. The 24 drivers qualified, and the top 6 essentially decides the grid for each of their groups in the semi-final. So it's going to be exciting to see how that plays out, because it's such a short session that you've got very limited room for error.
Very much all or nothing in those sessions, and that's what I kind of prefer for myself in qualifying. I don't like the long drawn out. You have to go out there, put in that fast that when it matters, and that's what our top 6 qualifiers are going to have to do very shortly.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about Mikael Hezau? Last time out, of course, riding on a bit of a crest of a wave here, really. If we, you can see him on screen there at the moment, the German driver finally broke the curse, as you can see there. Second, he finished in Paris, eliminated during the Repechage in Nürburgring, but fought back in New York to finish second under controversial circumstances, I think it's fair to say. And then finally got the duck off his back, took the win in Salzburg, qualified for the World Final. At last, I think there was a sigh of relief on his face after that one.
Well, you say that, of course. It was a great performance by him, but and there are winners we see at the moment on screen at the moment for the last World Tour events. He didn't qualify very well this time around. He's actually not in the top 6 qualifier. He was qualified somewhere 10th or 11th out of 24 drivers, so a long way off by his standards. But he's been telling us that he's been a bit busy with studies recently, and since he's gone through already, he's not really giving it his full attention as he was back in Salzburg. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, down in 12th actually, Mikael Hezau after the qualifying session yesterday. Consequently, or conversely rather, I should say, Takuma Miyazono, Ryota Kokuban, Koda Likovsky, Andrew Brooks, Andriano Carazza and Ryan DeRouche made it through to the top 6. So some really strong names in there that Mikael missed out on for whatever reason.
I'll tell you what, it's really nice to see Ryota Kokibu in there because he's someone who, after his Asia Jana win back last year, when we were here last year in Tokyo, has just kind of gone downhill. But now I think he's comfy again. I think, honestly, a big factor for the Japanese guys performing so well is that we are at that in the home country. There's no travelling involved for them.
Yeah, these are the highlights you can see on screen at the moment of the qualifying session we had taking place yesterday, general qualifying. Takumi Miyazono, Kokiban, Lukovsky, Brooks, Karatsa and Darush made it through. These are in the F1500 Gran Turismo machine, so essentially an old Formula One car that these drivers are competing in. So very different machinery to what we're used to at the Circuit de la Sarbe. So it is going to be exciting to see how they all fare.
Yeah, of course, something that you won't know as well is that in that general qualifier, Miyazono and Ryota Kokiban were separated by 1,000th of a second. We actually have a comparison video on our Facebook page. Go check that out if you get a couple of moments on the Gran Turismo Facebook. But my word, over the course of a lap, which is over 3 minutes, being separated by 1,000th of a second is just ridiculous.
Yeah, that's like less than the width of Jimmy Broadbent's wallet, just to give you an idea of how small of a gap that is.
You're going to say that. I'm glad you said wallet.
Goodness me. It's gone downhill already. I mean, what am I talking about? It never went up the hill, did it? No, it's going to be exciting to see how they all get on this top 6 qualifying session. As we said, very limited room for error for these drivers as well. And those F1500 cars, they've got a turbo, and it's a bit like a switch, really. You put the power down, and for all you know it, you're fighting the rear end to keep it all in play.
Yeah, definitely. Our drivers are going to have to really put in maximum effort to get the best out of that. But now it's time for us to go to that top 6 qualifier and see who's going to be on pole here at Tokyo.
Here is Rayan Darush then, the Frenchman. Spoke to him in Salzburg in the carpool interview that we did, which you can catch on the YouTube channel for Gran Turismo TV, and was talking to him about his thoughts and feelings on the GT Championships. He's a massive fan of it, as are all the competitors here, of course, and he's one to watch out for. He's been there and thereabouts so far this year. Of course, finished on the podium back out in New York or Nürburgring, I think it was. Earlier on this year, anyway, he finished on the podium, and he could definitely be one to watch, and he seems to be quite at home actually in these F1500 cars.
Yeah, completely different sort of car to the Red Bull X2019, and I'm sure I'm not the only one to say I'm pretty glad to see we were actually diverging a little bit from just the one car in the final here. This car, of course, based on a late 80s F1 car. We won't say which one. But lots of power, turbo engine, and it's a big turbo, so lots of turbo lag, so you'll be very careful on the throttle. And as Tom said just before we came over to the session, it's a bit like a switch. It's not there, and then it's there in all its mighty and all its glory. Here is Karatsa right now, and I quite like that livery in that car.
It looks good, doesn't it? I mean, the man who is known for piloting a car that looks very similar to that, of course, is the late great Ayrton Senna, and that is a livery that I'm sure he would be very proud of, because it looks fantastic with the Brazilian flag adorning the whole car.
Yeah, I mean, these cars have been geared specifically for this circuit here. We don't usually see F1 cars around the Circuit de la Sarbe, but no, with Gran Turismo we can do what we like. So we've got them going around here. These things in qualifying trim back in the day ran somewhere north of 1,200, 1,300 horsepower, which back then they had qualifying engines that would be used just for one lap and they'd expire. Luckily in Gran Turismo we haven't got to worry about that.
Thankfully not, yes. Yeah, qualifying engines, not something we have to worry about. Likewise, qualifying tyres as well. These guys can go at it for a couple of laps in this top 6 qualifying session, which it's going to be exciting to see how they all fare. And this Le Mans circuit, Jimmy, it's one that you know particularly very well. There's Andrew Brooks, who's just got a penalty actually on his first flying lap, so that is not ideal for the Canadian driver. And in terms of the time that is left in the session, there's not long left at all, so he's going to have to be really careful, because they're only going to get about 2 laps to qualify.
It is, and of course that one lap that's basically 1 lap done now, only 1 more lap to go. It's only a short session here, as we said earlier on, so making sure you get to make the most of that is incredibly important. So here's Andrew Brooks making his way through this second chicane right now. And he picked up a penalty, I think, coming through Touch Rouge. Very easy to do through there. The track limits are quite strict around here, because if you do make up a little bit of time on corner entry, you carry that time all the way to the next chicane, so corner exit, sorry. So it's very important that you're strict on that. Otherwise, people are going to start taking advantage. You can see the massive rear tyres on this F1500 car, just compared to the front tyres. And the front tyres look diddy in comparison, don't they?
Yeah, they do look like caster wheels. You find the bottom of the sofa compared to those rear tyres, which are absolutely huge in all sorts of ways. But Andrew Brooks there, as we said, in his first flying lap in this session, not ideal at all. Now, Cody Lukovsky, he's been a driver actually I've seen struggle in these top 6 qualifier sessions so far this year, Jimmy. A bit more of a racer, I think, than a qualifier. Good to get himself inside the top 6, but he needs to pull out the goods in these sessions to get himself a good starting spot for the semi-final and just make his life a bit easier, really.
Yeah, I was going to say, he doesn't not hear a bit of a thumbs up from Cody. He knows he's being watched, and you see one of the drivers that we think is, capable of winning one of these events, but almost if Hizao or Rubilar or Fraga are not there, you know, and not to discredit Cody at all, it's just a very strong field here. But, you know, he's in the top 6 qualifier, which is the first step done. And we're going to start now getting our first times coming in. First all up is going to be Ray and Darush. She's coming through the forward chicane now, as it's called, to come across the start-finish line. Let's see what sort of time he can put in on the board. It's going to be a 3:16.0. So not a bad time, but not a great time there from Darush. I'm sure we'll see some faster times coming as the session goes on. Here comes Adriano Carrazza there in the Brazilian liveried F1500 car. Can he improve on the Frenchman's time in front? Let's see. I don't think he's going to. No, slightly slower, 3:16.5. So let's see what Andrew Brooks has got. Bear in mind, Brooks does have a penalty. 2 seconds he served on the way through, so he's going to be a bit further down. That means for Andrew Brooks now, this lap is going to be all or nothing for the Canadian drivers. The pressure is on.
Yeah, absolutely right. In terms of the lap times yesterday that these drivers were setting, Takuma Miyazono, the fastest man of the session, he was a 3:12.907. As we said, Kokiban only a thousandth of a second away. Over the line comes Cody Nikolalikovsky. He goes into P3, better than Brooks, but not a particularly exciting lap time there for the Australian-Macedonian hybrid driver. There is Ryota Kokiban. Now, what can he do? He was second fastest in the session yesterday. He wrestles the car out of the final corner. Over the line he comes and goes fastest with a 3:15.832. And listen to the crowd here in Tokyo. Takuma Miyazono, meanwhile, is not looking too bad, but he's a tenth of a second down. He'll go second fastest as he comes over the line, and he improves only third fastest, actually loses more time in that final sector, and is all or nothing now on this final lap here, Jimmy.
This will be it now. All the drivers very much focused. Ryota Kokiban has the pressure slightly taken off, although a very quick first initial lap. But these cars tend to get quicker as the session goes on. So it's all about now getting that final lap all put together, especially for Andrew Brooks, who actually had a penalty on his first lap. He's down in 6th. Now we're on board with Miyazono. You get an idea. You can hear the turbo come on in this car. It's brutal. It really is. You've got to have a very, very careful right foot. Otherwise, you're going to end up spinning off into the undergrowth. There's Miyazono. A nice run through Tete Rouge. And at the moment, he is 3/10 up on the fastest time set by Ryota Kokiban.
This is very impressive here then from Takuma Miyazono. What can he do? He's all out there on his own. But what about Ryota Kokiban? In terms of the sector times in this session, we've got the live timing on screen. But look at this. As you can see, Ryota Kokiban 7/10 of a second faster in the opening stages. It's a very long lap here at Le Mans, though, so it's crucial to not get too carried away at that point, because he could lose more time as this lap goes on.
Definitely. I'm going to say, Tom, just I love seeing this car out the circuit. It gives me vibes of the old Gran Turismo game. Seeing it back here again is absolutely fantastic. And you look at that, just absolutely using all the curves a bit more. Bit of understeer, though, coming out of a second chicane. So maybe just a little bit too quick. He's still half a second up, though, on his best time. And really taking the line of least resistance, almost close enough to the barrier to touch it. You see, by comparison, Miyazono a lot more tiny coming out of a second chicane.
3/10 of a second up in that sector there as well. So he's bettering that time of Ryota Kokiban. He still continues to carry that time as he comes down the second half of the Mulsanne straight, and over the brow of the hill he'll come, and heading in towards the right-hander which follows. This is absolutely mega stuff from Takuma Miyazono. What is he going to be able to do here in this session? Through the right-hander then he goes. Kokiban still the fastest man. In terms of the sector times, he is the man on a charge at the moment. It's all about Rayan Darush, though, as we look at him on screen. Through into the final chicanes, the 4 chicanes we go with the Frenchman then, and out of it now and over the line. The Frenchman on home soil here at Le Mans. Over the line he goes, and it's pole position by half a second for Rayan Darush. What a lap time. He pulled the cat out of the bag there.
Rayan Darush just there getting the lap in when it matters, but he still has everyone else yet to come. So here's Carrazza. Can he improve? I'm going to say no, because his time right now is a 3:15. He must have made a mistake somewhere, and Andrew Brooks picks up another penalty, so he won't be improving his time. That's a disaster for the Canadian, though he will start 6th, so you can't argue that's too bad. Let's have a look a bit further down the field. We expect to see Cody Lukowski come through next. But there's Brooks with the penalty. Actually, he does move up. He beats Cody's initial time, even with the penalty. Here comes Cody. He's 3/10 down currently on Darush. Let's see if he has a good last sector. Comes through the last corner, smashes the throttle, keeps it the rear end in check, comes across the line and goes into 3rd position, just off Ryota Kokiban.
The man we need to watch, though, is this man here, Ryota Kokiban. Look at him, 4/10 of a second faster, muscling the car through this forward chicane. Over the curb he goes. Did he lose time there? Over the line he goes now. Ryota Kokiban second fastest, and it's pole position. Absolutely amazing from Kokiban. Takuma Miyazono, meanwhile, has lost time. He's dropped something in this final sector. He goes wide out of the final corner. He goes over the line, and he does it. What a final lap there from Miyazono. Look at the time that he made up in that final final sector. Takuma Miyazono takes pole position at the end of that qualifying session. That was amazing.
That was all in the last corner there. You see how he just threw it across the chicane, used all the runoff on the left and just took that speed to the line. I didn't think he was going to manage that, but a great last sector from Miyazono. He secures the pole at 3:14. The only driver to do so. Amazing that. Amazing that.
Just fantastic then from Takuma Miyazono. Anyway, I would like to welcome over to our commentary box Julia Hardy.
I'm
Welcome
back.
How are you?
I'm good. I can talk and say words out loud, which is a
this is different.
definite bonus to yesterday, which was not so much. So this is fun. I'm like hunkering down with you guys. This is cool. It is. There's some weird stuff going on under here you don't need to know about. I'm just kidding. Really. So this has been great. I mean, how have you? I can't. The crowds here are incredible. Everyone is so keen to be watching this. And of course, look at this. I mean, it's the results speak for everything. The two hometown guys. You only got Miyazono and Coquelin, like straight at the top there. How can these crowds not affect their performance?
Exactly. The home crowd cheering them on is clearly done at Miyazono and Kokuban the world of good. It's just mega impressive to see them doing so well, isn't it? And it's been a difficult year, as Jimmy said earlier on, for Kokuban. Miyazono's just been steadily making that progress, and maybe now this is his chance to shine on the home stage.
I mean, Miyazono's been doing, let's be honest, pretty well. I mean, what he's into, he's definitely one of the ones to watch. He's only been at kind of like 2 events. He's actually been doing really, really well. And we've got some stats here as well. Yeah, 5th in New York.
Yep, really impressive there for Ryota Kokuban. You say they're 5th in New York, and challenging year for the Japanese driver. But maybe this is now his chance, as we said, to just turn things around. Home soil, maybe just things are going his way finally.
I mean, also, you can't sort of... We have all been suffering moderately from jet lag. Well,
moderately is
I think that's been
understatement.
fair to say. So, actually not having that additional thing. I mean, and when you're dealing with, such fractions of time, it can make the difference between winning and losing and what your position is and everything, just that little bit of sleepiness or jet lag. So they obviously have that, to their advantage here.
Yeah, it really does help. It definitely does. There's no doubt about it. I mean, if you check on Twitter, Jimmy Broadbent fell asleep the other day whilst we were in a production meeting. So that just goes to show you
Just tell everyone, Thomas.
Yeah. Well, it just goes to show how tired you can be when you travel over here. It definitely helps being on home soil. They're comfortable, and perhaps it's just that extra little thing that's giving them a boost. Takuma Miyazono, again, a driver who we've seen making steady progress over the course of this year. 4th in New York. Yeah. That amazing strategy that he pulled, Jimmy, if you remember back.
Oh, yeah.
Where he tried to do the old 3 pit stops and, ended up actually being a little bit unlucky.
Oh yeah, here we go. We've got a little tweet there from Miyazono. I was 2nd in the Nations Cup at World Tour Hangar 7. Whilst I placed higher than previously, I was completely outdone in terms of pace. So I'll go and reflect on this for next time. Thank you for our support. I do remember having a conversation with him though in Salzburg, and I was saying, what about the pressure? There's a lot of pressure, being here and being on this stage. And he was like, I noticed the pressure, and I realised it wasn't really useful to feel that kind of anxiety, so I just don't. And you're like, wow,
so
I wish I could just switch it off like
Easy.
that. Amazing. Actually, I was talking to Nicholas Rubelar over breakfast the other day, and I was kind of saying, had he noticed the difference in his in sort of the scale of and how he'd been driving over the course of the year, and he said one of the sort of biggest things that he'd noticed was he's more comfortable being on the stage. He's more comfortable with having cameras in his face, which makes a big difference. And I said, do you feel now like you're driving like you do at home?
Yeah.
Like, is the gap kind of lessened? And he said, yes, absolutely. So I think that's why we're starting to see things really, really heat up in this World Tour. So let's talk through the next hour. We could talk for hours. I'm like, after not talking yesterday, I'm like really
all pent up and ready to go.
Yeah.
The Sardinia Road Track is where we're going to be racing for semi-final A. You can see a fictional track on GT Sport, but based in Italy as well. This is a road course, of course, which made its debut earlier on this year in the Gran Turismo World Tour. Fair amount of elevation change to consider there, 38 metres, and a relatively fast and flowing track, but for a few slow corners. It's almost a bit of a square, this one, isn't it, really? It's kind of fast and flowing. I think you have to really sort of slam on the anchors quite hard.
Yeah, all about that, all about positioning as well. We have a couple of long straights here, of course, very long straight from T14 down to T1 coming over the start-finish line. So looking to slipstream there, that's the pace to do it, of course. And more importantly, we're showing off our new car in this race, the Jaguar Vision GT. All electric, lots of power, 4-wheel drive and adjustable torque split. We'll get into that very shortly. 12 laps around there, racing hard and medium tyres, and importantly, each tyre must be used for at least 4 laps in a row.
Yeah, no fuel consumption, of course. It's entirely electric, so just to bear that in mind. Tyre wear of ×5, though. Racing hard and medium tyres available, so they must use each tyre for at least 4 laps in a row. And it's going to be interesting to see what strategy is all about. Speaking of strategy, here is the predicted strategy. Racing medium tyres, they'll get about 7 laps out of. But, of course, racing hard, you'll get 5 laps out of. So that's what we're predicting. They'll probably do 7 laps on the medium, 5 laps on the hard. They're going to lose about 10, 11 seconds in the pit lane there as well. And you can see the difference in pace there between the hard and the medium tyres, 0.7 of a second on average per lap.
And, you know, it's always quite interesting when they kind of set up this meta and then everyone kind of like suddenly turns it on its head in different races and then we're like, oh, different strategy, messing with the meta. Love it.
Messing with the meta.
Messing
hashtag.
with the meta, yeah.
I like it.
Okay, so yeah, we've actually got the starting grid up there, semi-final A. Who are kind of your eyes on? Obviously, we talked about Miyazono, definitely. I think Rubala's like looking pretty strong too. What about Mick? Well, how are we feeling about Mick this time round?
Mick was sharing some cheeky torque split strats with me earlier, saying that the car is fastest on the 35-65 torque split for acceleration, but with that, it understeers. So his plan is to turn the torque steer down going into the corner and then back up again coming out. So he's going to be based on the will to doing this the entire time. So yeah, good luck to you, Mick.
Yeah.
Having a fair old twiddle. You know, somebody I'm sorry. I am sorry. Somebody who I'd like to see do well is Adam Sassuillo, driver who he's been there and thereabouts so far this year, and you know he needs to pull something out of the bag. He's been at pretty much every World Tour event we've done so far this year, but just never has had that sort of shine, standout performance like we've seen from Miyazono, Lukovsky, whoever. You know, and he just needs to get himself there. But I think it's now time to get semi-final A then underway here in Tokyo. Here then is the semi-final A for the Nations Cup for the 2019 World Tour for the Gran Turismo Championships. Vision Gran Turismo cars for the Jaguar machine, newly announced in GT on Friday here in Tokyo. Takuma Miyazono starts from pole position, the Japanese driver with that blinding lap, and listen to the crowd behind us if you can hear that. You can see Adriano Carrazza starts in second place on the grid on the front row. Andrew Brooks in third position, the Canadian, despite his poor qualifying, will line up at the head of the second row ahead of Nicolas Rubelar, the Chilean driver. The third row of the grid, Adam Sassuillo. Keep an eye out for the Briton, see whether he can do something in the British Racing Green machine. Then Mick Hizau down in P6. Can the German turn his fortunes around? Let's hope so. Adam Wilk lines up in P7, the Australian, so let's see if he can do something there with Koke Lopez lining up alongside him, another driver who's been a nearly man so far this year. Let's hope he can turn his fortunes around. Manuel Rodriguez in P9 there. And alongside him, there we can see, just behind in fact, Rick Kevelam, the Dutch driver down in P10. 11th place, Patrick Blajan. And then in P12, the final spot on the grid, Baptiste Beauvoir, the Frenchman, down in 12th place on the grid. He was actually lucky to make it to the grid. He has had a challenging time so far in Tokyo, and let's hope that he has a better performance under race conditions, Jimmy Broadbent.
Yep, so not a long run down to the first corner here. We have a rolling start, as you come to expect in these races. Now, as we said, these cars are four-wheel drives. It'll be a very quick acceleration down towards T1 here today. All the torque splits, I'm sure, set to 35-65 for the best possible launch. And it will be Takuma Miyazono leading up for the first race here at Tokyo in front of his home crowd. Will he crack under pressure? Will he thrive? We are very, very close to finding out. Coming down to the start-finish line now. Let's get prepared for the race, guys. I hope you're ready. Got your drinks, got your snacks already. Better have it there because don't go away. Here we are then, coming across the start-finish line to get going at Tokyo for World Tour 5, and Miyazono leads the field down towards T1 for the first time in the background already. Rick Kevelam going off onto the grass. Not a great start from the driver from Holland there. Andrew Brooks looking around the outside, trying to go a long way around at T1. He's in second, and Anton Swillow comes through. Oh, and that's big contact. Rodriguez, Carrazza, and Miyazono's off. Our pole sitter is off at T1. 4 cars off, and through that, Koke Lopez somehow comes through and takes the lead. Oh my word, and unsurprisingly, that first
further in the background, Jimmy, it's all kicking off there. I think that was Andrew Brooks being the catalyst on the medium compound of tyres there. And I don't know what happened down at T1, whether I saw Sassuillo coming straight in like a wrecking ball. I don't know whether he had contact from behind, but we'll get a replay of that one very shortly. Meanwhile, Nicolas Rubelar side by side with Adam Wilk for third place. This is Christmas come early for these two because they were quite far down the order in terms of Adam Wilk, but Nicolas Rubelar now on the inside as they continue to run side by side through the right-hander. The Chilean driver is temporarily, at least, ahead and into P3.
That's a real shame there for Miyazono. He's now down in 10th position, making his way back up the field. But importantly, as we said before, all the hard runners in front of us are now actually at the front of the field, so they're on the worst tyre leading. They can set the pace, and then when they get onto the medium tyre, they'll be good. Adam Swillow there and Wilk having a fight from the futuristic cockpit of Adam Wilk right here as we come through the right into the left, and Rick Kevelam has been given a 10-second penalty, so I think it's fair to say he was the one responsible for what happened there. Hopefully we can get a replay at some point, but my word, that's not how you want to start off the Nations Cup here at Tokyo.
Far from ideal there for Rick Kevelam, so let's see what happens, keeping piece together. Now he's on the grass here, as you said there, Jimmy, coming down towards the first corner. He's on the left-hand side of your picture. There's Rodriguez on the right. I think he's going to break too late. Yeah, he's well out of shape. He goes into the side of Rodriguez, into the back of Rubilar, into Sassuolo. Miyazono goes off all on his own there by the looks of things at T1, but that was just a big old catalyst, and it just caused a horrible chain of events after that.
Yeah, really unfortunate there. I mean, one small mistake and his event is now essentially over 7 seconds at the back of the field. But here's someone who we didn't think we'd see here. It's Takuma Miyazono now. Just a refresher, if you've just joined us, top 4 go through automatically to the final, and then down to 10th go through into the Repechage, 11th and 12th go home. And right now, Hizal is just about going through, as is Miyazono, but a lot of work to do. Here's Andrew Brooks. He's running in 6th place right now on the medium compounder tyre. This is not where he wants to be on the medium compound, Tom. He wants to be up front.
Well, that's the thing here with the medium compound. They're the quicker compound of tyre. You want some clear air to run in at the moment. The harder compound, you're going to go for a longer stint, of course, because he's got a longer duration of tyre life. But then again, do you want to get off it as soon as possible? Maybe it's the converse. There is Adriano Carrazza having the peace of mind. Andrew Brooks, rather, I should say, having the peace of mind to play up to the camera. Carrazza, meanwhile, goes wide. What have I said? The commentator's curse definitely into effect as he runs wide, loses out to Takuma Miyazono. That's one less position for him to deal with now. Carrazza going side by side with Rodriguez, and also Mick Hizal involved in this. It was all kicking off a bit further in front as well with Miyazono and Sassuolo. Here is Sassuolo then with the Japanese driver, the pole sitter no less, right behind him. It's a big old gaggle of cars there up into P4. Now this is quite useful here actually for Miyazono. Whilst he's involved here in this group, it gives him a good opportunity to close up onto the back.
It's going to be a red flag, Tom.
This is the first time we've had a red flag here, Jimmy. Now, this is due to an isolated incident, I believe. So the race has been red flagged for the first time ever in Gran Turismo World Tour history. So, yeah, that is, a big consequence of what has happened there. And my understanding is that it was related to some kind of an issue with the game there. So you'll get that one restarted very shortly, indeed, for the Nations Cup. But a red flag then. So.
I've never seen that happen before. I know they go through the test to make sure that we get an idea of what happens when that does occur, but a big round of applause there from the players. So I think they believe that should have been the case. Tom?
Just heard in my ears from Race Direction that Rick Kevelam has been given a penalty. He had that 10-second penalty, but because of the incident he caused at T1, he will start from the back of the grid for the restart of this race. Now that is massive. I mean, we've never seen this before. We always get the anticipation, the hype building up, and to have it dashed like that is, well, it's a big shame. And I've been fortunate enough to commentate on other forms of racing where you've had red flags and situations like this, and it knocks the wind out of your sails a bit here, really. And
definitely.
The thing is, all these drivers, they were focused. At the start of this one, they were ready to go and they were pumping through. And all the adrenaline was up. Now they've got to stop that. They've got to calm down again, and they've got to rebuild it up again for the start of the race.
Especially, I mean, people like Carrazza, they'll be very happy with that decision as well, because they were not having a good race at the start.
Miyazono
as well.
too.
Miyazono, of course, the pole sitter just went off on his own at the start, so he wasn't actually involved in that incident, but is going to benefit from this red flag anyway. And yeah, I think. Judging by the driver's reaction, guys, you can't really see it, of course, they're just behind us, but they think that's a good idea. So.
Yeah, well, as long as it's fair, all's fair in war, isn't it? And I suppose that it gives another bite at the cherry there for the likes of Sassuolo, who's affected, Manuel Rodriguez, Miyazono, who was saying. So it's Christmas come early for them then, really. They'll be quite pleased with that result. Somebody who won't be pleased, of course, is Rick Kevelam, the catalyst of that incident that we saw just a few moments ago, starting from the back of the grid. Someone who probably won't be voted for Michelin Driver of the Day is Rick Kevelam after that incident at T1, but never know, he might turn things around. If you do fancy voting for Rick Kevelam, or indeed any of the other 24 drivers we've got here in the Nations Cup, get in touch on social media, hashtag Michelin FIA GTC, and we'd love to hear your thoughts on that one. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, some other form of social media that hasn't been invented. You can get in touch with us and just let us know who you think the Michelin Driver of the Day is, and in our extra lap show, one of us, I think, will be talking to them.
Yeah, that shows you just how well we're planned here.
Yeah.
One of us will.
Yeah, we'll figure that all out later.
But as you said, Tom, it's a very difficult time for the drivers now, because you get hyped up, you get the adrenaline going, and now you have to kind of reset, think, right, okay, so this happens at the start. What have I learned from that? What have I learned in this case? In this case, is watch out for Rick Kevelam. That's what you've got to learn. But Rick will be starting from the back of the field now. So if anything now, it's a chance to be even more of a wrecking ball.
You know, quite. Hopefully he's learned from his mistakes.
Yeah,
Don't forget, of course, on a separate note, the winner from this Nations Cup final will go through to the World Final in Monaco in November. You can see on screen at the moment, Nicholas Rubelar, Igor Fraga and Mikhail Hazal have all qualified for that automatically, having won the event, the World Tour event so far this year in 2019, and maybe we'll see a new name on top here this evening in Tokyo. It could be all to play for, and it's going to be exciting to see how it all plays out when we eventually get semi-final A, B, and also the repechage, and then in theory, well, definitely the grand final underway.
Yeah, hopefully there are more red flags for that. Of course, we have a big old audience here at the moment, and I've just heard some nice news that we're going to be racing, starting the race once again very shortly. So here we go. Take two.
Let's try again then, shall we? The semi-final A for the FIA Gran Turismo Championship Nations Cup. And here is how the grid lines up for the second running of the race then. You see the cars, the Vision GT Jaguar machines lined up on the grid. It's Takuma Miyazono who will start from pole position. An even bigger cheer for him this time around. Alongside him, Adriano Corazza on the front row of the grid. The second row is Andrew Brooks, the Canadian. Keep an eye out for him. See whether he can turn his fortunes around here today, with Nicholas Rubelar lining up alongside him, the Chilean driver. Fair bit of support for him there. Adam Sassuillo is in P5, the Briton, unlucky in the first running off at T1. Mikhail Hazal in P6, he'll be definitely hoping for a better running and keeping it facing the right way this time as well. Adam Wilk, the Australian, in P7, and alongside him on that row of the grid is Coque Lopez, who was leading. He won't be pleased with the restart because he was doing pretty well actually after how things were going. And Manuel Rodriguez lines up in P9, his fellow Spaniard. Alongside Manuel Rodriguez is Patrick Blajan. In P11, towards the back of the grid, is Baptiste Beauvoir. Keep an eye out for him, has been unlucky so far this weekend. And right at the naughty boy spot on the back of the grid is Rick Kevelam, the Dutch driver, lining up in P12 following that incident down at T1 in the second running then of this race here, Jimmy Broadbent. You can see the top three drivers starting with the medium compound of tyres. And a note from the stewards there, all drivers, please respect driving standards. In other words, don't try and win the race at turn one.
Well, you've got a little saying you say, Tom, don't you, about looking bad. I think that applies here in this instance. We want to make sure we put on the best show possible for you guys at home and have the fairest race possible. So I think the decision really to restart the race is a good idea. But now Miyazono has to do it all again. This time, focus on the apex. You're going down to T1 for the first time at a different speed you're used to in a car, which is incredibly quick on the acceleration, so making sure you're focusing on that braking point for T1 is essential. If you're Rick Kevelam, just try and make up the back. Try not to cause too much trouble this time. But anyway, take two. Takuma Miyazono will lead us off here at Sardinia for the start at Tokyo. Take two, Miyazono down to T1, Corazza there dips into the slipstream straight away. Brooks is going to try what he tried in the first race and go around the outside into T1. Let's see if they can all get through cleanly this time. Corazza takes the inside, Miyazono on the left. Here's a little bit of a biff out onto the gravel again. Miyazono seems to like that gravel trap, but now there's contact going on further down from Sassuillo into the wall. Corazza into the lead, and Mick Hazal and Sassuillo coming together there. So some people not respecting the driving standard, it seems.
Right, it's getting very heated in this first section, is it? Very sideways there for Takuma Miyazono. He gathers it up with the Dapper opposite lock, but loses out there to Coque Lopez, who again has made a great ascension through this field on the opening lap. Here we ride on board with Andrew Brooks. He's right behind the Brazilian of Adriano Corazza. Seems to like this Vision Gran Turismo car, does Andrew Brooks, and also Corazza. A little bit messy on this opening lap here, but not doing too badly at all. Both these drivers, of course, on the medium compound of tyres, whereas Nicholas Rubelar, who's in P3, is going to be a bit of a sitting duck to Coque Lopez, and in theory Miyazono, who are also on that medium compound. Here comes Lopez down the inside, but he's way too late on the brakes. Here goes Rubelar off into the barrier, my goodness, and also Brooks goes round. There's carnage again on the opening lap. Brooks goes down, Miyazono caught up in that contact as well, the pole sitter. Would you believe the luck he is having here in Tokyo? The upshot is that Corazza, Lopez and Rodriguez now occupy the top three.
My word, silly hour it seems between the boys here, and the downside is both Mick Hazal and Andrew Brooks are now pretty much out of the running. Our winner from last time out is now 12th and last here in semi-final A, so a terrible first lap for him. But again, as you say, Tom, Carrazza and Lopez, by comparison, having a great first lap. First and second, Rodriguez up into third, Adam Wilk, up into fifth. And Rubelar, despite facing the wrong way midway through this first lap, is somehow in fifth. Here comes Mirzano up the inside of Rubelar. He's looking for the opportunity, turns the car in. A little bit of understeer there. That's what they were complaining about understeer a lot here. I think it's catching a lot of the drivers out when going to moves, which is why we're seeing so much contact.
That is possibly exactly right there, Jimmy Broadbent. As you say, in P5 now for Takuma Miyazono. His next target, of course, is Adam Wilk. Both those drivers there, Wilk and Rodriguez in front, are on the hard compound of tyre. Miyazono is on the medium compound, so he should be a lot quicker. Here comes Wilk, who's trying to send it down the inside of Rodriguez. This will be helpful here for Takuma Miyazono. It'll allow him to close up, and he is a lot faster, understandably, on that softer compound, the medium compound of tyres compared to the hards. Will he think about a move down in towards this following left-hander? He's very close behind. He's using the slipstream very effectively down here, but is he going to have the room to try and make a move? Rodriguez goes defensive against Wilk, and subsequently doesn't have room to move it, but Rodriguez is wide, and Wilk goes through side by side as well as Miyazono comes into the action here. Miyazono on the inside of Rodriguez. Wilk goes through on the Spaniard. Side by side we go once again through the right-hander, and then we're going to flick it left. But he's not able to find a way past this Miyazono, and it's allowed Rubelar and Blajan now behind to close up.
Wilk is doing a great job on that hard compound of tyre right now, keeping his guys behind him. Miyazono goes up the inside of Rodriguez in the background. Blajan gets it wrong. He goes wide, but the upshot, as you say, Tom, Miyazono is up into fourth place and back into an automatic qualifying position after starting on pole. Now he has Wilk in front of him. You see the different cornering styles through there. Miyazono was sideways through the corner and is now in the slipstream. Look at the speed there in the bottom right-hand corner, getting up to 200 miles an hour coming down the T1. Miyazono goes to the inside of Wilk. Just seems like a matter of discourse now. Through he goes up the inside. Wilk has no response from the hard compound of time. Through he goes. Wait a minute. Miyazono's been given a 2-second penalty. That must have been for contact.
And the same for Rodriguez there in P6 as well. P5, sorry, I apologise. So that is very, very important in this race and how it's going to shape out when they come to the penalty line over the timing line. Meanwhile, no such problems here for Adriano Carrazza and Coque Lopez. The medium compound of tyre, they have cleared off out in front, and this is very impressive from the Brazilian and the Spaniard, because it's just allowing them that buffer, and this will help them in terms of their strategy when they go on to the hard compound of tyre here.
It definitely will, and having the bigger gap there will just give you more time to play with at the end of the race, and those on the medium tyres will still have to pass you on tracks, making things a bit more difficult. I must say, Tom, fate seems to be against Takuma Miyazono here in this race, doesn't it? Punting off in the off in the first race, off in the second race. Now he's got a penalty, 2 seconds, which is not a small penalty around here in these cars. It's a big struggle for him. Lopez there just checking out the drivers behind him. But as you say, this is great for Lopez and Carrazza. They just get on with it in the front of the field, aren't they?
Look at how gingerly Lopez is having to go on the brakes there to not run into the back of Adriano Carrazza. I think, as you said, Jimmy, they're definitely struggling with understeer. I think they're struggling with braking as well. Some of it might actually be to do with the fact it's an electric car and it just slows down in a different way to what you would be used to. There's no gears, of course, in this. It's a one-gear motion, so you put the throttle down and you brake, and it's like driving automatic. There's Miyazono on the grass as he serves his penalty, getting off the racing line very sensibly, as a warning is issued to the man now in third place, Adam Wilk. And here comes Baptiste Beauvoir also going through on Miyazono and Blajan. So Miyazono
gets Beauvoir as well at the same time, and does Miyazono. So Baptiste Beauvoir there was caught napping going to T1. And he was fifth for a second, but Blajan went nope, and Miyazono goes nope, and they both go through fifth and sixth. And now again, Miyazono has it all to do. Reminder, top 4 go through automatically to the final, and then 5th to 10th go to the repechage. You do not want to be in the repechage, trust me. You want to get through nicely so you not have to worry about that. This is a good performance by Blajan so far. We've not seen much of him in the recent events. He's been here but not been doing too well. And Miyazono just dives up the inside using that medium tyre to its full potential, and through he goes up to 5th. Now can he get onto the back of the top 4?
This is great stuff from Takuma Miyazono. It might be a little bit too little too late though, because that medium compound of tyre means that he wanted to have clean air to run in the opening stages of this race. Meanwhile, Rubelar challenging Adam Wilk now for P3, the Chilean versus the Australian then for the final spot on the podium as things stand. Meanwhile, Sassuolo and Rodriguez are exchanging positions as the Spaniard makes his ascension through the field now up into P8. But Rubelar really beginning to put the pressure on. We're about to come into the pit window here on these tyres as well for the the hard compound of runners. They want to get off these as soon as they possibly can. So are they going to pit at the end of this lap and chuck the mediums on for the rest of the race?
Been a great drive by Wilk so far. Really has to maintain this third position. He didn't start too high up, so it's good to see him in that position to automatically go through to the final. Now, how much longer are we going to be on this tyre for? Now, each tyre must be used continuously. I think it's for 4 laps in this race, yep. So really the hard runners can come in now, and Rodriguez does do that, as does Siswillow, so they're opting to use the medium tyre for the rest of the race. Now, it's going to have to be something special from these guys now. Right now, they're not in a position to go through to the Grand Final. They're going to be going through to the Repechage as is. So this stint now, what they ideally want is a bit of clean air. Let's see if they get it.
Out of the pit lane they go. Clean air for Rubelar in front. Nothing like that, though, for Adam Wilk. This Jaguar Vision Gran Turismo car, very unique indeed. It's got a 3-motor electric power unit, and, well, it does a fantastic job of propelling that car up to over 200 miles an hour, as we have seen. It is deceptively quick.
That's right, and off our screen, Rubelar actually got past Wilk, so there was a pass to third position there. Miyazono there, again, in background, in 5th position. Interesting grip on the wheel he has, similar to the Alacy-style death grip you see. It's interesting how people hold the wheel in different ways. I'm a bit of a nerd like that, so just ignore me.
No, it's brilliant, though. It's good to notice there. He has definitely got a different driving style to Kuma Miyazono. If you compare himself and Ryo to Kokubun, for example, they just handle the cars so differently, just in terms of being smooth or aggressive.
Interestingly on Kokubun, I know it's not in this race, but apparently he right foot brakes, which is very interesting. And Rubelar moves to the left to defend from Wilk. I'm surprised they're having this fight right now, because Miyazono's just looking for an opportunity, and there he is alongside now Wilk. Now surely we're going to see Rubelar and Wilk now peel over to the right-hand side of the course and pit in and get rid of that hard compound tyre. Let's see what happens here.
Miyazono, meanwhile, very close. Wilk does pit in. Absolute spots on there, Jimmy. You call that to perfection. Blajan coming in P7 there as well. Will Kevalam follow him through? Most likely so, but there is Adam Wilk. Kevalam does come in then, so off those hard tyres, get off them as soon as you possibly can, get the mediums on, run to the end of the race. You'll be quicker in terms of your pace, and in theory it should play out quite nicely in terms of their strategy, if of course you can get the clean air that you so need. Meanwhile, Adriana Carrazza, Coque Lopez, they'll run to lap 8, and then they'll run onto the medium hard compound tyres to the end then of this race here. So all the drivers who have pitted now down in the lower half of the top 10, so we've got to wait for it all to play out in terms of strategy to see how it's all going to unfold for these drivers.
Carrazza has been building the gap very slightly in front. They're now up to nearly 2 seconds. We'll see him probably in the pits in a few laps' time. Meanwhile, Rubelar opting to stay out on the hard compound tyre, and importantly, Miyazono is still stuck behind the Chilean driver. Of course, Rubelar was our winner at our first World Tour at Paris back in April, I think it was. My word, time flies. But now he's having to defend from Miyazono, someone who's just been a rising star over the last few events. But it just seems in this first race he's had a really rough run of things. In the first start of the race, it's in the gravel. Second start, it's in the gravel. And now he's had a couple of penalties, and now trying to fight to get through to that automatic place to the Grand Final. Something that we haven't really discussed just yet is that great air brake / spoiler on the back of the car. You see it actually retracts above a certain speed to increase, to get rid of the drag so the car can go quicker down the straight. I think it's amazing.
It is brilliant. Oh, wide there for Rubelar, and Miyazono goes into the back of him. Well, that was very interesting indeed. Rubelar got onto the grass on the outside from what I saw. Miyazono just planted it straight into the back of him. So into the pit lane then comes Miyazono off the medium compound on lap 6. That's a very early call here to change from the mediums, because he can run those up until lap 8.
I think what he wants to do is get that away from Rubelar. He wants to try and get out there and just have a bit of free air. I'm not really sure what happened there. Did Rubelar just have a bad exit? Because there was quite a big hit between the two of them there. Baptiste Beauvoir comes into the bits as well for his pit stop going onto the hard compound tyre. Miyazono then comes out in 5th position.
He needs to keep ahead of these guys here. He really does. Andrew Brooks goes around the outside. Oh, and Brooks has gone off there, hasn't he, in that drama? So Brooks has gone off at T1. Was Miyazono at fault? I'd like to see another replay of that. The stewards will be checking it, and you can probably guarantee it'll be under investigation. And if Miyazono is, that could be bad to worse for the Japanese driver here.
What happens to Kuma Miyazono? This race has just not gone his way, and unsurprisingly, the incident is under investigation, so we'll get back to you as soon as we know what happens with that. But right now, Patrick Blajan, he's harrying the Japanese driver in that Hungarian liveried Jaguar Vision GT car. Again, all electric, 4-wheel drive, and lots of power. 750, I think it's kilowatts of power, which is around 800 horsepower or so in old money, as you say, Tom. There he goes, dives up the inside of Miyazono, gets the move made on that medium compounder tyre. And it's, I say that, he did, and he goes wide there, and it doesn't seem very fast there in the top left, but he's just really ruined his race. So Patrick there, a little bit too aggressive on the way, and Miyazono very much knowing his braking points and confidently letting Blajan go up the inside and make a mistake.
Oh, wow, going a little bit wide there in 4th place. Sorry, Jimmy, you were talking earlier on about that retractable rear spoiler. I was really fortunate actually to spend a bit of time with the design team at Jaguar talking about this Vision Gran Turismo car. You can see no further action there. Racing incident has been deemed between Brooks and Miyazono here in Tokyo. That'll please the local crowd, I can tell you that. But I was just saying about the Vision Gran Turismo car, the dedication of this team to get it finished in the time span and the time frame that they did to produce something as brilliant as this. It's very unusual, this Vision Gran Turismo car, in the fact that it's got a very long sweeping bonnet, takes design cues from the C and the D types, bit of E-type in there as well. It's got the canopy that's really driver focused, the cockpit that's really driver focused. It is absolutely mega. Meanwhile, as we talk non-stop about the Jaguar VGT car, as wonderful as it is, the gap is shrinking between Adriano Carrazza and Coque Lopez.
Brooks in the background has gone from medium to medium tyres down along the field, so that'll be another stop from him. But yeah, the gap is shrinking at the front. Coque Lopez starting to reel in the Brazilian driver here. A nice little look at the cockpit. Looks like a little jet fighter, doesn't it? There's crazy mirrors there on either side of the dashboard. I can't get over that. That'd be a bit distracting for me, I think.
Yeah, I tell you what, I was again discussing it with the crew when they put those, when they're talking about the mirrors and how they're going to place them, and it does work relatively effectively, actually, I have to say. But you can see the hologram there on the dashboard. That is designed to feed you different driving information here as well. So
I think right now it's telling him to go faster.
Well, quite exactly. Is get past Carrazza is what it's saying at the moment there for Coque Lopez. He's just harrying down, chasing down that gap now at under a second. It's getting close further back as well, though, for P6. Into the pit lane, though, comes your race leader of Adriano Carrazza and Coque Lopez following him through. So these two are going to be, again, probably running nose to tail out of the pit lane then, because, of course, no fuel to take on board in these electric cars. Just the hard compound of tyres. Get out of the pit lane, out of it then, and then see where you end up. But who is going to take the lead? Rubilar also in there as well. He makes his stop from P3.
This will be interesting. Where does Rubilar come out? He's on the medium compound tyre now. He comes out just ahead of Mirzano, and Mirzano goes up into 4th place, so right back now into an automatic qualification spot. And Rubilar, he stayed out far too long on that hard compound tyre. And again, Bourgeois and Blajan goes wide there. It seems some people just don't quite, the merge back into the racing line there is quite aggressive, and it catches some people out, and off go those couple of drivers. But now, Adam Sassuillo is hunting down Takuma Mirzano for that last spot in the grand final. Sassuillo, speaking to him earlier on, he wasn't confident about his chances here, but right now he's in a great position. That gap is constantly coming down. Director, please give us 4th and 5th. There it is. And Sassuillo goes up the inside of Mirzano. He can't quite keep the Briton there on the hard compounder tyre, and Sassuillo goes up into 4th place, and importantly, that last automatic qualification spot.
Manuel Rodriguez has been given a 2-second penalty. He's down in P8 following some contact with another car. So bad luck there for the Spaniard. And now Mirzano is going to be trying to attack, but he's also having to try and defend from Nicolas Rubilar, who's again trying to find his way past. He's on the hard compound of tyre, everybody else around him on the medium, so he's a bit of a sitting duck here at the moment. Is Takuma Mirzano. He's going to have to drive with every ounce of talent that he has at the moment on lap 9 to keep himself in with a chance of qualifying for that grand final, and also in particular staying in the repechage here at least.
He's doing a good job of staying with the runners there. He's on the hard compounder tyre, as you can see in the top left-hand corner of your screen, and that tyre is about a second a lap or so slower than the medium compound. And let's see if he can hang on to Sassuillo quite wide there. Mirzano has the run coming down the T1, but does he have the tyre to go for an overtake? He's in the toe, dives to the inside. Adam comes across to squeeze him a bit too late though. Can he get the car slowed down though? Heavy on the brakes now for T1. Rubilar wants a piece of this action too, and Mirzano understeers into Sassuillo, who gets hit off onto the gravel trap again. And Mirzano, mate, that was on you. You hit him off again, so that's surely going to be a penalty for him.
I don't think Mirzano is particularly a big fan of the car at the moment. He's not enjoying himself out there on track. Other people are certainly so. And meanwhile, Adam Sassuillo is not particularly a big fan of Takuma Mirzano at this particular point in time. Let's see whether that is going to be under investigation here, that incident. Meanwhile, Sassuillo now trying to find his way onto the back of Takuma Mirzano, compromising both their races, that incident, Jimmy. Meanwhile, Adam Wilk doing a really good job, actually. He's been relatively quiet out on track, but the top three having actually been relatively quiet over the course of this one, but that's exactly what they've wanted, and it's allowed them to hold on to these top 3 positions.
Adam could win this race, Tom. Adam is on the medium compounder tyre. He's going quicker than both Lopez and Carrazza. That gap's come right down now, so if anyone's going to win this race, it's going to be the Australian driver here, and that would be an amazing result for Adam Wilk. He's not usually up in the top end of the field, usually sits in the midfield somewhere, so to be on this strategy and be this close to potentially winning this race would really get his confidence up. He nearly runs into the back of Coque Lopez now, but look at that gap, it's come right down. He gets contact, no he doesn't, he gets a bit of understeer, and you see him in the bottom left. Whew, he says, I nearly ruined that, but I think maybe feeling the pressure a bit.
Under investigation incident between Takuma Miyazono and Adam Sassuolo. Let's see what the stewards deem about that incident. Is there another racing incident, or is it a bridge too far for the Japanese driver here in Tokyo? Koke Lopez, though, getting closer to Adriano Carrazza, who's looking like a bit of a sitting duck at this particular point in the race. But as you said, Jimmy Adam Wilk is really got the bit between his teeth, but can he do anything on that medium compound? Can he close up? Meanwhile, Miyazono is now ahead of Blajan as he comes tumbling down the order. As Patrick Blajan has clearly made a mistake of some description as he now goes down to P8. But here is the Brazilian driver. You can see him on the left-hand side of your screen, and he is really struggling in these closing stages to keep the pace of Lopez and Wilk.
He is. Let's see if he can do anything about it. Carrazza there just trying to get the car for as smooth as possible. You can see how the car moves on throttle. Got the kind of lateral slide as the four-wheel drive kicks in. Behind us, you can't quite see it, about a second behind Adam Wilk, and Lopez taking a wider line there to try and conserve the tyre a bit more, I think, trying to brake as aggressively. Looks on the inside just to show the nose to Carrazza, say, look, I'm behind you, we've got Wilk behind me as well, you've got to get a move on, mate. And just like that, Adam Wilk is back onto the rear end of these first and second place drivers. So again, if Wilk can just get a bit closer, have a better last lap, he can still maybe win this first semi-final here at Tokyo.
Really putting the pressure on. Penalty there for Takuma Miyazono, 1 second. So that is going to be crucial to the outcome of this race here for Takuma Miyazono. The good news is he's 1.9 seconds ahead of Baptiste Beauvoir in P6 at the moment. So that is a very welcome thing for him. However, it's just something to bear in mind. He might be able to slingshot past on the straight there, Beauvoir, if he closes up a little bit more. Meanwhile, on board and onto the final lap we go with Koke Lopez then in second place. Carrazza goes defensive down into T1. Hard on the brakes we go into the left-hander, trying to find the grip, trying to find trap position. Carrazza ahead for now on this last lap here, Jimmy, but it's getting pretty exciting.
Yep. It is, and I think the thing is, Wilk has actually made a mistake coming out of the last corner as well, Tom, so he's not going to be in the fray now, but they're both going at it. They don't need to fight too well. They don't need to fight. They can both go through here as long as they're sensible. There was a 1 second penalty given to Miyazono, as we said before, so he's now down out of the running to get an automatic qualification slot. But now it's between these two drivers. Koke Lopez from Spain, Adriano Carrazza all the way from Brazil, both here in Tokyo, duking it out in the new Jaguar Vision GT car. If that doesn't sound good, you're watching the wrong stream.
This is mega. Here comes Lopez. He's getting really close to Carrazza now. They're nearly running side by side as they come through the left-hander. They're going to go hard on the brakes here. Will Lopez have a cheeky look? He's a bit of a step too far away. He's going to try and switch back against Carrazza here, but Carrazza gathers it up, doesn't go too wide on that corner, and he lives to fight another day against Lopez. But the tension is beginning to build here as the Brazilian is really on the back foot on this last lap, and Lopez is looking so menacing, and he draws alongside Carrazza. Carrazza again goes defensive down into the hairpin. Further back, it's all kicking off for fourth place. Carrazza defends. Lopez doesn't manage to find his way past, and there's contact between the two drivers. Carrazza just holds on. Lopez gets out of shape there as well. Meanwhile, third place is now Rubilar as he's gone ahead of Wilk. But over the line comes Adriano Carrazza. He takes the win in semi-final A. Lopez finishes in second, Rubilar in third, and Adam Wilk is the last of the automatic qualifiers for the grand final in fourth place. Miyazono holds on to fifth, just ahead of Beauvoir after that penalty, and then Rodriguez, Cavallum, Blajan and Hizal just makes it through by the skin of his teeth there down in P10. Sadly, we say goodbye to Adam Sassuolo and Andrew Brooks there.
That's a real shame for Sassuolo there. He was definitely in the running there for a decent result. The thing is, Miyazono, a really rough race for him, Tom. I mean, that was not the performance we expected from a man of his talent.
Messy.
Lots of mistakes, lots of penalties, and ultimately he's now going to have to try and get through again, but this time in the repechage.
Yeah, that was messy from Takuma Miyazono. Definitely at fault for some of those incidents. I think it's fair to say the steward's call was absolutely right over the course of that one, and that is really disappointing there for Takuma Miyazono. Julia, what did you think of that one?
Wow, it was a bit messy, wasn't it? It was a bit all over the place. Yeah, like we're saying about Miyazono, I don't know. He's just so kind of calm and collected, and then that didn't really sort of go the way. And obviously there was the incident with Rubilar earlier on, and that kind of like shook things up a bit. It's like shuffling of a deck, isn't it? All of a sudden, like one bad hand just kind of rejudges everything into a completely different order. And yeah, again, shame about Sassuolo. That was
he was pretty much there in a position to go through to the grand final, and suddenly he's down in 11th place. And I mean, The thing is, you can give a penalty to someone, but you can't repay that position. That move is made. So he'll be a bit frustrated. That he actually joked that he's going to end up in the gravel trap in this race, probably like he did last time. And unfortunately, it came true.
Maybe don't joke.
Hey, don't joke.
You're just making things happen. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I suppose. I don't know. I think you know, Lukovsky is definitely going to be one we're going to be. So we have a quick look at the replays first. Yeah. So obviously.
Yeah, this road all kicks off at the opening stages, isn't it? You can see this is the restart of the race. Rubelar ending up
that's the one, yeah, look at
himself
it.
into the barrier there as well. And then Takuma Miyazono, I mean, it was just kind of a race that went pretty badly at the start and then just got worse progressively as it went on. There was that 2-second penalty that he was hit with, which put him out of contention for a podium position. Then you can see him fighting his way back through the field against Patrick Blajan. He found his way there through. It was Adam Wilk who just made that quiet ascension through the field, kept his nose really clean. Yeah. And that was a mega impressive performance as Rubelar ended up with contact into the back of him there too.
Yeah, he just touched the wall and he exited the corner and slowed up, and then Miyazono went straight into the back of nowhere to go there. So Karatsa, I mean, for him, this has been a great race. You know, takes a win. It's his first win at a World Tour event in a semi-final, nonetheless. And here was Siswillo making his way past Miyazono, but then coming down to T1, Miyazono just doesn't break. Rubelar takes the place of Siswillo and of Blajan and Miyazono. Goes up into fourth, but yeah, it's not been a good race for Miyazono at all.
You know what it felt like? It felt like the repechage.
It did a little bit, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It felt a bit like the repechage race rather than the actual first kind of semi-final.
Well, I'll tell you, if the repechage is going to be anything like that, if it's half as good as that, we're in for an absolute treat, aren't we?
Wow.
Hopefully there's a few less penalties. Final results you can see on your screen. Karatsa, Lopez, Rubelar and Wilk make it through to the grand final. Miyazono, Baptiste Beauvoir, Rodriguez, Kevelam, Blajan and Hizal will go into the repechage, and sadly we say goodbye to Adam Siswillo and Andrew Brooks.
Tell you what, Mick Hizal was very lucky there. He spun right at the start of the race, went way down the order, no chance, and because of Siswillo, I guess must have had an issue after going to the gravel and spinning himself. Mick just got into the repechage, so maybe a repeat in Nürburgring for him.
Wow,
yeah.
You never know. Why don't we take a look forward then to semi-final B and just who have you kind of got your eyes on? I mean, we're terrible at these hot picks, but let's do them anyway.
It's really difficult to sort of look at it, isn't it? You've got to look at the likes of Tomoki Yamanaka. He was actually really quick in the manufacturer series yesterday. Giorgio Mangano, bit of an outside chance there, perhaps, maybe. Rayan Darouche, he's been there and thereabouts, bit of a nearly man so far this year. There's so many good names up and down the field, it's really hard to just sort of pick one. And as we saw in that first race, it's very hard to predict. I reckon Yamanaka, personally, is going to be one to watch. You can see there last year in the World Final for the Nations Cup, finished in P4. A Japanese driver here on home soil. It hasn't gone the way of the first Japanese driver we've seen competing so far. But it might go his way.
Yeah, I don't know. Did you see them sort of earlier on? They're all kind of like getting together. They certainly kind of felt like they were in their element. Like sometimes I feel like they feel a little bit out of place because obviously there is kind of like quite the strong language barrier there. But this time they're all kind of like in their group. Actually, to be honest with you, everyone's been kind of mingling quite well together. But they did have a little circle earlier. I'm always a bit kind of keen to sort of see what the group dynamics are that are going on. You know, it's quite interesting. Obviously, Lukovsky, we mention him time and time again. I think we even actually have a tweet from him or like something he was saying basically about how he's been sort of like trying to change his approach to driving and obviously being aggressive, but not quite so aggressive if you catch my drift. Yeah, and like, you know, using it, strategically as opposed to just terrifying everyone else on the track.
Yeah, it's all about avoiding things that make you look bad, Julia, as the infamous voiceover for some reason says. Koda Lukovsky, he's been a driver who's, again, been there and thereabouts, but just needs to rein it in a bit too much on occasion. He's been there, but he's been overly aggressive, we've seen at some points. We saw that with Miyazono back at Spa when we had that dramatic final in New York, and it really compromised both of their races. And if he can just get his head in the right place, I think he'll be in a good shout of doing it. But it's easier said than done. That's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the way he's talking and like the progression over the past kind of few events, you can see that he's mentally trying to push in the right direction, and that's kind of half of what it's all about, really. So, you know, whether it comes through, it's just about kind of edging forward. But let's move forward and take a look at the semi-final B then.
The semi-final B will be taking part at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps, which we've been told will be coming out hopefully some point next week, but you know, sometimes things get delayed as they do. A world-famous circuit, you must know it by now. If you don't, what are you doing? go Google it. One of the best circuits in the world, one of my favourites to drive, in my opinion, anyway. Of course, quite a lot of elevation stemming from the bottom of Eau Rouge all the way up to the top of Lake Com. Lots of very memorable corners through there, of course, and a great place to have a race.
Well, you'd hope so.
It's going to be pretty mega, isn't it? Here are the race details. Porsche 911 RSR Group 3 machines for these drivers to compete in 7 laps. Heavy, wet conditions, though. Hello, Spa-Francorchamps in heavy wet. I'm looking forward to a bit of that one. Tyre wear at 5 times and fuel consumption at 3 times as well. You can see the penalty line there on your screen at the moment. That is going halfway down the Kemmel Straight in towards Lake Coombe, so it's just worth bearing that in mind if any drivers do pick up any penalties, as we saw quite frantically in semi-final A, then they will have the same in semi-final B. In terms of the fuel for this race, something to consider because, of course, it's a very fuel-heavy circuit, this one. Strategy is going to be pretty interesting over the course of that, so just bear it in mind. But here's the starting grid, Jimmy.
Yep, that's right. Ryota Kokiban, of course, who was one of the fastest drivers in the top 6 qualifier, will be starting on the pole. Gran in second and Cody Lukowski in third. So basically all our top picks all together, which should be for a good start. Great thing about the Spa circuit, of course, is the first corner is the source. It's a hairpin, so lots of moves made down there. Be a rolling start as well, so what do you reckon? Pile up?
Well, I hope not. I really
another
rather
red
hope
flag.
not. Yes, quite another red flag. First time ever we've seen a red flag at a World Tour event. Do you know that?
Yeah.
It's like nearly 2-year history already. Pretty mega, isn't it? But yeah, La Source, we know how complicated it can be. We know what it's like when you've got drivers going down towards that first corner in the dry. We've got them in the wet conditions here.
It should be interesting.
It's going to be pretty tricky down into the first corner to pick your braking point. And these boys are very experienced. We know they're professional drivers, and we know how much they love to compete with one another. But it just takes a couple of meters, a couple of seconds, a bit too late on the brakes, and that could be it. That's what we saw in the first running of semi-final A. So hopefully we don't get the same in semi-final B. So here then, for the 2019 FIA Gran Turismo Championships Nations Cup. Spa-Francorchamps is the circuit in heavyweight conditions, and here is how the grid lines up.
So on the pole position is Ryota Kokiban, the home driver here. Big cheer from the crowd, unsurprisingly. In second place, Randerus, the Frenchman there. Great qualifying session for him in the top 6. And in third is Cody Lukowski. What can he do from third place? Let's see if that aggression is in check, shall we? In fourth, another Japanese driver, Yamanaka, crowd favourite both here and across the world. Maraglino, the Italian driver there in 5th position on row 3. He's joined by Kim Long Lee there, the Hong Kong China driver. Then down in 6th place we have Giorgio Mangano, the Italian, another Italian on the field. Great to see them represented here, of course, in Tokyo. Then Sugawara, again a massive cheer from the crowd for every Japanese driver, massive home support here. Kevin Pounder yet making an appearance at yet another World Tour event, good to see him. Then Danny Solis had a bit of a tough ride yesterday in manufacturers, but looking to redeem himself here. Then Cho there, down in 11th place on the back row of the grid, and he's joined by Regalado, the Peruvian driver. That's 12 cars in the wet at Spa. Looking forward to it.
How many different nationalities have we got going up and down the field? We've got drivers from Japan, Hong Kong, China, Taiwan in there, Peru as well. It's mega this, isn't it? Oh, don't say the Nations Cup isn't diverse, if that's anything. Ryota Kokiban, though, is going to lead the field around through the bus stop chicane. What do we reckon here, Jimmy, on these opening few laps? These guys have got to keep themselves relatively clean. That's the thing. It could cost them quite a lot more than they could gain.
Well, first of all, we're in the wet conditions, so all the braking zones are massively increased. We're in the mid-engine car. This car wants to turn around a lot on throttle, so you've got to be nice and careful, especially when you have corners like Radion coming over the top of there in the wet. It's going to be very tricky on the first lap when you're trying to feel out the competition and the pace. So I think maybe just try and take it easy for the first lap, and once you're comfortable, start pushing forward.
Semi-final B then for World Tour 5 here in Tokyo for the Nations Cup. There is Ryota Kokiban, the Japanese livery on that Porsche 911 RSR Group 3 machine, who is going to be leading at the end of this 7 laps. 4 drivers to go automatically through to the grand final. Here we go then, semi-final B in Tokyo is underway. Ryota Kokiban immediately darts to the inside. Randerus and somebody's off already there in the background. I think that's Danny Solis, who's had strife in the first opening start of this lap, but down into La Source they go for the first time. Take it gingerly down there, fellas, because you've got a lot more to lose than you have to gain. Lukowski down the inside of Darushin into 2nd position, Yamanaka into 4th, Mangano into P5, and Kim Long Lee also into 6th place here, but they're all coming up through Oruge and Radion here for the first time of asking. But Ryota Kokiban there, the Japanese driver, kept his nose clean and holds his lead.
A mistake for Maraglino as well, sees him drop down the field, but we're focused on these guys right now coming through Radion. for the first time. Car seemed nice and steady over the Sugawara, correcting a little bit of a slide over there, but no big drama. We do have an investigation underway, but we'll get back to that in a second. On board Yamanaka now, you're seeing the lack of visibility behind the spray of Ray and Darouche coming down to Lake for the first time. As you can see in the steering, just how twitchy the car is on the brakes coming into Lake and just trying to be very, very easy on the throttle through there. We get to look at their inputs every now and then. You can see just how cautious they're having to be around. Here's a replay of the start. Let's see what happens here.
Down into T1, Mariglino there on the outside, Yamanaka on the inside. Now, is there a bit of contact going on the midfield? It's very, yeah, you can see there, Mariglino gets tipped round. And I think there's Ben Cho going into the side of Kevin Pounder, which subsequently sent Mariglino down the order. So a penalty there for Kim Long Lee. He was deemed to be the cause of that incident, and he is now suffering a 2-second penalty from 7th position.
So all that, Cody is up in 2nd place. He is now trying to chase down Ryota Kokuban. This is a new challenge for our drivers. It's the first time we've seen Spa in the wet as well. So great to see that the wet weather is becoming to Spa as well as the circuit soon, hopefully for you guys at home, of course. But Cody there seems to be very much in his element at the moment.
Yep, you can see there Ryota Kokuban, Cody Lukovsky, we ride on board with him now at the moment. Now keep an eye out for the driving styles here, as you said there, Jimmy. The car looks so twitchy, but they're having to just tippy-toe around here as things stand and be so careful going through these corners. Look at the throttle input that they've got in particular. They're just having to be so patient on the throttle, on the steering, and just take everything and treat it almost with kid gloves there. We saw an incident, meanwhile, under investigation there involving Kevin Pounder and Alonso Regalado. Regalado deemed to be the cause of that and hit with a 2-second penalty.
Yeah, patience is not a thing these drivers have, I can tell you that right now, especially Cody Lukovsky as we come through Blanchimont. Let's see what they do from here. A big break on the way in. That's usually a corner with a lift. Big break in these Group 3 cars through here. Now we come into the bus stop. Where are they braking? They're braking before the 150-metre board. You see on the way down, Cody having to correct the car several times as the rear slips and slides in these wet conditions. Through the bus stop, so easy through. Really easy to spin these cars. You see lots of opposite lock as Cody smashes the throttle and we come across the line to start lap 2 here. Fairly eventful first lap here, but it seems that Kokuban's starting to settle in nicely. But Cody Lukovsky is in hot pursuit. Ray and Darouche now, though, he's behind in 3rd.
It's going to be a bit difficult to see too much side-by-side action in these opening stages. All the drivers just finding out where the grip is on this track, or they're in the lack of grip that they are suffering from. And it's crucial here to try and avoid the curbs too much as well, because you get onto those, they are slippery as anything, and even more so the AstroTurf on the outside of the circuit. And that is a one-way ticket to try out the hospital food here at Spa-Francorchamps. There is Ryota Kokuban looking at him as we go through Eau Rouge and Radion over the top of the hill and onto the Kemmel Straight then for the second time of asking. As you said there, Jimmy, settling into this race really nicely. 0.6 of a second he is ahead of Cody Lukovsky. That's just out of effective slipstream range here. Meanwhile, Sugawara is in the effective slipstream range of Giorgio Mangano. Side by side they come down into Lei Coombe on the outside here for Sugawara. Does he manage to get this stop? No, he doesn't. He runs wide. He runs off and over onto the sleeping policeman, and he drops back now behind Giorgio Mangano.
Hey, what, you think there's a lack of grip on the race surface? Try going off in the wet at Spa. Is he picking up a penalty there for going over the off track?
I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah, I'd argue it slowed him down enough there. I think he slowed up, but yeah, I'd agree with you there, Tom. But rules are rules, as they say around here. So a 0.5 of a second penalty there for Sugawara. Mangano, though, a little breath of fresh air now, and he's in a position where if he can just get the car being nice and neat, nice and tiny, he can try and get onto the back of Yamanaka and start chasing that automatic qualification position. One more thing to remind you guys of course, if you have just joined us, top 4 go through automatic to the final. 5th to 10 go through to the Repechage, and we say goodbye to 11th and 12th position.
At the moment, that is Kevin Pounder and Danny Solis in P11 and P12. They've got quite a bit of a gap, actually, back to Mariglino, who is just holding on to P10 as things stand. But these drivers, as you said, just taking it so gingerly going through there. There is Ryota Kokuban. You can see on the right-hand side of your screen on his cockpit view the rear-facing camera, which has got a mirror full of Cody Lukovsky's Porsche 911 RSR, and actually really riding the curb there through the right-hander of Stavolo there for Ryota Kokuban. So I don't know how that's going to affect him too much in his drive onto this straight here, Jimmy, as they head in towards Blanchimont, because as you've mentioned many times, you make a mistake going through there, you carry that mistake all the way through to the next serious braking zone.
Yeah, curbs are very slippy in the wet around here as well, so try and keep off them if you really can. Saying that, Ryota uses all the curb on the exit of Blanchimont there, I think, just to try and carry the speed, and now braking a little bit later than we saw before. I think now it's starting to fill out the circuit and where it is. And what's the throttle input through here? Barely even getting near 30%, completely off the throttle now. Wait till the car's in a straight line, then full throttle, and then you can unleash the power of this Porsche engine coming down through the line one more time.
Did you see him bouncing off the rev limiter there in second gear, as well as he's waited to shift up to third. Really interesting driving style here from Rio to Kokuban. They're just trying to tame the wheel spin of that car, and perhaps knowing that if he went to third gear too early, he might spin up the wheels even in these conditions. It does happen. Meanwhile, just a bit further back, Mariglino has got himself up into 9th place now, ahead of Ben Cho, the Taiwanese driver, down into P10.
Does. That's coming through Eau Rouge then. Great shot there going up the hill. There's Rayan Darouche. He's actually closing in on Cody Nikola Lukovsky in front. He's going to drop into that slipstream now. He's about 6/10 behind. He's not quite close enough to make a move coming up into Lake On, but he'll be getting a free tow all the way up until the braking zone, which will help decrease the gap ever so slightly. Lukovsky there starting to take a couple of different lines. I think trying to explore a bit, try and find a better way through this section. Cody's a driver, although he is many things, and people say he's very aggressive, he's someone that has meticulous detail in his driving. When all the other drivers are talking and chatting after a race, he's there on the rig looking at replays, trying to see what he can do better. And right now, he is starting to challenge Ryota Kokibun for the lead in semi-final B here at Tokyo.
The epitome of a grafter, isn't he, Cody Nikola Lukovsky? I think that's probably fair to say, but just keeping himself very patient here. The thing is, this race will reward patience. It will reward the driver, the thinking man, over the course of this one. It's not all about going balls out and putting everything on the line, because if you do put everything on the line, that is normally where you start making those errors. And if you make an error in this, it's probably magnified, I should say, by about 25, because it could send you off into the barrier. It could really compromise yours and somebody else's race. You've got to drive on such a knife edge around the circuit in these conditions. You've just got to be so careful as things stand, and you can just see Cody there slowly decreasing that gap to Ryota Kokibun. The top three actually a bit of a pronounced gap now to Tomoki Yamanaka in P4, but Rayan Darouche is also closed up subsequently onto the back of Cody Lukovsky. So the top three now running relatively close as we've seen over the course of this race on lap 3 here, Jimmy. So it's getting pretty interesting, and we could see some moves being made over the next couple of laps, potentially for position.
This depends really on what Darouche can do here and what Cody can do. Kokibun is being caught by both second and third place right now. And the closer you are to the car in front, the more of the slipstream effect you're going to get. But you're also going to get dirty air around here. I'm just seeing Kokibun go quite wide there on the exit of Blanche. We lost a little bit of time coming up to the braking zone. Not enough, I think, for Cody to try and move into the bus stop, but more importantly, the closer he is now, the closer he can be coming out of Eau Rouge and Radion, and maybe can make a move into Lake Com up there. So really, what Cody and Ray will be thinking of doing right now is just trying to set up a move for the end of the straight. That's what you have to try and focus on. There's no use going at it for every corner, because that's how you'll lose time. At the moment, it's only half a second between first, second, and third respectively. You see Cody a lot better on the brakes, but his exit is going to be probably a bit poorer compared to Kokibun. I say that, Kokibun's wide, he slides, so they both have a similar exit. This could be it for Cody if he gets a good run for Eau Rouge.
Just an idea of how smart, to give an example of how smart Cody Lukovsky is driving. Under the brakes into the bus stop, he moved over to the left-hand side at the last minute to get himself a better line going through that corner after being on a tighter line to try and avoid the curb on the outside. He's really, you can see the expressions on his face on the left-hand side of your picture there. He knows he had a poor run through there, but he's actually closing up a little bit onto the back. He's got a penalty as he exceeded track limits, and that is not helping Cody Lukovsky. So now it's all about getting himself past Ryota Kokibun. Kokibun goes defensive, moves over to take his normal line on the braking zone. That's harsh but fair there from Ryota Kokibun. Lukovsky trying to find his way through, and all the while these guys are squabbling. Look at the Frenchman there, ready to pounce in the background. Rayan Darouche took his first podium in the World Tour event earlier on this year, and he's looking to try and repeat that feat here in semi-final B.
Very firm move there from Kokibun to say, no, mate, this is my corner, don't even think about it. And when you have Cody behind you, you have to do that. Cody is a guy that will take any opportunity to get that car past, and now luckily for Kokibun and for Darouche, Cody's got a 0.5 of a second penalty. It won't hamper him too much, but he'll definitely lose that second position if he can't get by Kokibun now. Now coming up to Puon, great corner this. Have to get off the throttle on the way, and usually again it's a bit of a lift and a downshift, and this is a really big heavy braking zone. Try and avoid the curb on the left. Don't touch this curb on the inside there, because that is actually quite high and can unsettle the car and then send you off to the exit.
Just as a display of driving, this is a spectacular race, I've got to say. The car sliding the drivers on the ragged edge of adhesion, trying to tippy-toe their way around this circuit. You see a bollard there in the middle of the track as the drivers run over it. There's the half-second penalty that Cody Lukovsky has got, and he'll serve that next time around halfway down the Camel Straight, which is not the ideal place to serve it if you're the driver, because of course you're going to lose time, and he will lose if the gap stays as it is. Position to Rayan Darouche.
I think Kokibun is now starting to feel the pressure slightly. You're seeing him sliding that Porsche 911. This car is technically mid-engine nowadays. It used to be rear-engine, now it's technically mid-engine. But even so, the car is very slightly under power, especially in these wet conditions here at Spa. So coming through launch, got a great angle back there looking at the rear spoiler, and the spray being kicked up into the face of Cody Nicola Kostic. He'll be glad his wiper is working. Coming now down to the bus stop again, not quite close enough to make a move, and just going to tuck in behind the Japanese driver. He's using all the curb there, trying to make the shortest line possible. And oh my word, what a move by Cody. All it took was one little mistake from Ryota Kokuban, and Cody Nikolakowski now goes up into lead. He has the run down to the source. A good move by Cody, but you can't help but feeling it's a little bit futile given this 0.5 second penalty.
I tell you what, the atmosphere here has just gone through the roof in Tokyo. The Japanese commentators over to the far side have just blown a gasket, I think, as they're getting really excited about all this, because they know, of course, that Kokuban, if he stays and keeps that gap under half a second, he will be able to go back through, and also Ryan DeRouche could follow him through there as well. Up through Eau Rouge and Radion they go then, for the 5th time of asking onto the Kemmel Straight. Here is where Cody's going to serve his penalty. Does he move off the racing line? Let's hope he does, and it allows Kokuban and DeRouche to go through in a safe and clean manner. They're going to try and use the slipstream for as much time as they can. Kokuban goes to the outside line. He goes through into the lead, and now it is side-by-side action between Lakowski and DeRouche. DeRouche on the outside, Lakowski on the inside. Into Lake Coombe they go, and Lakowski holds off the charge of the Frenchman for the time being. That is brilliant from Lakowski. He could have really lost out there. He could have dropped down to 3rd position, but he didn't. He held off the charge of Ryan DeRouche, and that was very, very important.
That was really nice positioning by Lakowski. He did have to serve the penalty, so he ultimately had to give him the place to Kokuban, but just made it more difficult for Ryan DeRouche. Didn't give him any space that he had to give him, gave him the minimum possible space, and therefore kept 2nd position. And now I think he knows, right, I know I'm quicker, I know I can get past it. I've done it once, I'll do it again. And maybe we can see the Australian taking his first win here in a World Tour event. But DeRouche there, he's stuck to the back of both of these guys. One mistake from either of those and he'll be through again.
All of the back of him like a bad rash, isn't he? There's an incident involving Kevin Powder and Kim Long Lee that is now under investigation, so keep an eye out on that. Those drivers sitting in 9th and 10th position respectively, and it'll be interesting to see what has happened there. Maybe we'll get a replay if there is deemed to be a penalty, a warning issue there to Kim Long Lee. We didn't see what happened on the screen at that particular point in time, but either way, the driver from Hong Kong, China is issued with a warning to another strike, and he will get a penalty for similar conduct out on track. And you know, some people will be watching this race sat at home and say, well, you know what, it's a bit of a slow burner, this one. It's not as interesting as we've seen with other races, but you know what, it's a thinking man's race, this one, and it's rewarding those who are being patient, such as Giorgio Mangano. He's closed that gap down to Tomoki Yamanaka over the last couple of laps, and he's now all over the rear wing of his fellow Porsche 911 RSR driver. Mangano trying to challenge, but they're coming through Blanchimont. They're going to have a big lift here, and be careful they don't run into each other as they both go through that corner. Nicely done there, and very sensible from both drivers. Mangano surely isn't going to have a lunge down into that bus stop chicane. He's a bit too far away on this occasion, but if he can set it up coming out of turn 1, out of La Source, or maybe even out of the bus stop here, he could be in a prime position to try and challenge for P4, and a mistake like that from Yamanaka might be the opportunity that Mangano needs.
You know that Yamanaka will defend for his life again. He's in 4th position right now, so as it stands, he will be going through to the grand final if the race ended at this moment. It doesn't, luckily for me and you at home. We can get to watch this unfold. Mangano seems to be a lot better on the brakes than Yamanaka is, just a bit more confident getting that pedal down. Now, how is he on power?
Well, don't forget, of course, this is for the final spot, the automatic qualification spot in the grand final as well. So this isn't just for position, it is for the final spot in that grand final for the Nations Cup here in Tokyo. Meanwhile, the gap has come down for the race leaders just by a couple of tenths of a second, but up through Eau Rouge we go, watching P4 and P5. A slide there from Yamanaka up through the top of Radion onto the Kemmel Straight. He is going to have to really try and go defensive and hope that Giorgio Mangano can't find his way past. In the slipstream here is the Italian. Yamanaka towards the outside. He squeezes him over on the far side of the track. The Italian on the outside, the Japanese driver on the inside, and Mangano on the brakes goes through into the position. He slides a bit wide though, but he holds it off through the left-hander. The Italian commentators next to us have gone absolutely posse, and Mangano is at the moment through into the grand final.
But watch Yamanaka, he won't take that line down, I can guarantee you that. They called him the Samurai here. Very aggressive driver, and he will not let Mangano go. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, just closing up once again, Ryota Kokuban just not quite able to carry the same pace as Cody Nicola Lakowski there in 2nd. Coming down to Pouon again for the 6th time at the moment. Who's going to be better run through here? Let's see. On the brakes, turn the car in. Nice and easy in the power. So easy to get the car sideways for this long sweeping left-hander. Speaking of sideways, Lakowski there getting all kinds of locked up coming up now to the Fania chicane, another corner which is all about technical driving and keeping the car nice and steady on the power, and a bit too fast on the way in there. A wiggle there from the Australian driver, which allows Ryan de Rouge to come back into play again. Can we see the French move up into second? He's going to have a look into Stavelo 1, not quite close enough to do that, and Cody, luckily for him, just about keeps the place.
Just goes to show that one small mistake can cost you quite significantly, and now Lakovsky, instead of attacking on Kokiban, is having to defend from Ryan de Rouge, who also has his own moment coming out of Stavelo there. So it's all to play for. We're ready to come on to the last lap then here of semi-final B at Spa-Francorchamps, and Ryan de Rouge, the man who is going to be on a charge and trying to attack against Cody Lakovsky. If he doesn't make any mistakes, he could try and do so, but if Lakovsky has a good few corners, he could subsequently be onto the back of Ryota Kokiban. It's so unpredictable going on to the last lap here. 3 drivers fighting for the race victory, and it is going to be hugely exciting to see how it all plays out.
It is. So here we come then, bus stop for the penultimate time. We come over the start-finish line to start our final lap here, semi-final B at World Tour 5 at Tokyo. Can Cody Nikola Lakovsky do anything about the fight at the front between him and Ryota Kokiban? In the background there, Mangano and Yamanaka are still fighting for that last automatic qualification slot. Here we are, here are the top 3. Plunging down the hill towards Eau Rouge and Radion once more. It's great to see the cars snake up there. Usually it's nearly flat and dry. No way in the wet. It's a break on the way in. Nice and easy on the power on the way through. Over the top of the hill, over Radion. The car gets light. It wants to swap ends on you, but these guys are pros. No chance of that happening here. Cody had a great run there coming up through Radion, but he's not going to quite be close enough for a move to Lacom, even with the draft. The gap coming down. Here we are on board then with Cody. The spray being kicked up into his face. Look to the inside. Not quite close enough. Kokiban defends the inside line, but look how much closer now Cody is. My word, he's a little bit wide there. That's going to slow him up quite a bit and allow de Rouge back into the frame.
This is getting very exciting indeed. Through the right hand we go, then heading down in towards Repechage of turn number 8. Bit wide there, bit squirrely on the exit for Cody Nikola Lakovsky. He's really trying to find his way through down into Repechage. He ducks to the inside line. He's not close enough to make anything challenge through there, but the main thing he needs to do is get himself set up for a move coming out of Stavelo. And as they head through Blanchimont into the bus stop, that'll be his last real opportunity, unless he can do something through Pouon and into the Fania chicane. Still on board with Lakovsky as things stand at the moment. The battle for 4th place has just settled down a bit as Mangano has broken out a gap to Tomoki Yamanaka, but the battle for the lead is still hotting up and still getting pretty intense between Kokiban and Lakovsky. But at the moment, Kokiban looks like he's just got enough of a buffer in hand here.
Too little too late, I think, from Cody. I think he had the chance to get by, but of course he had that cut track penalty which slowed him right down to 0.5 of a second and put him back behind Kokiban again. I don't think there's enough opportunity left on this lap to make a move unless he has an absolutely amazing run through the Stavelo 1 and 2. It's looking quite unlikely for the Australian Macedonian driver. Here is Kokiban. He's led the entire race so far, handled the pressure from the 2 incredibly fast guys behind him, and now all that separates him from a victory in semi-final B is Bolshevon and the bus stop.
Got to keep himself nice and on the straight and narrow there for Ryota Kokiban. As you said, Jimmy, he's got himself a nice little buffer in hand of half a second at the moment. Ryan de Rouge is in 3rd position. He's not been able to mount a charge. He was really very close indeed. Through Blanchimont for the final time we go, and then hard on the anchors into the bus stop chicane. Positions changing place a little bit further back there as well. But Ryota Kokiban, what a mature, brilliant and fantastic drive it has been from the Japanese driver. And on home soil here for World Tour 5 in Tokyo, he outs the final corner and comes over the line to take the win. Ryota Kokiban is on top in semi-final B. Cody Lakovsky finishes P2 and Ryan de Rouge finishes in 3rd place, and Mangano over the line in 4th place. Brilliant stuff there. The Italian commentators next to us are absolutely over the moon with that result. Tomoki Yamanaka, Tatsuya Sugawara, Mariglino, Regalado, Pounder and Kim Long Lee will all have to contest in the repechage race here later on this evening, coming up very shortly indeed actually. Ben Cho and Danny Solis sadly will go no further in the Nations Cup race, but well, Jimmy, you know what, we've seen more exciting races with on-track action, but that was, as I said earlier on, a thinking man's race, and I really enjoyed that.
I always love watching racing in the wet. It's just so different from what you expect in the dry running. It's a real thinking, as you say, thinking man's race. It's just who's the most patient. It would be so easy on the power and on the brake, especially coming into those long braking zones. It's really easy to get the car locked up. You saw some of the drivers on board struggling on the way into some of the corners, but very enjoyable to watch. And again, a great drive by Kokiban.
raced to me. You know, that definitely seemed more like a semi-final race. Just because, I don't know, yeah, like you're right, it all seemed very careful, very considered. Everyone was behaving quite sensibly. You know, it wasn't quite the repechage, you know.
Not quite the first race. Like
Not really
no
like
red
the
flag
first
this time.
race, which was very, very different. Yeah, that was really good. That was really solid. I mean, I always find it quite interesting, like in the first semi-final race, like when Coque Lopez in the first one was like still really hammering really hard right towards the end, and I was thinking, why? Why are you doing this? What if it all goes wrong? You could like lose position. But everyone was very, very sensible. Lukovsky was very, very sensible. It was all kind of like, don't, you know, kind of over-egg a little bit too early. It's not really worth the risk, right?
Goes back to his quote, doesn't it? Make the smart moves. He didn't need to make the pass on Kokuban to get through the final. He thought, you know what, I guess I'll stay here then. And as a result, stay where he was.
Sure drive there from him, no doubt about it. Ryota Kokuban, though, you can see him there soaking up the pressure. Lukovsky getting that penalty. There was a challenge there for the lead. They did exchange positions in the mid-stages of that race as Kokuban got a bit squirrely coming out of that final corner, but it was all in vain because, of course, he had that half-second penalty. Of course, if he hadn't had that half-second penalty, who knows how the race would have played out? We'll never know. But Rayan Darush as well, huge credit to him. He just kept himself on the straight and narrow. This was the battle for the final automatic qualifying spot for the Grand Final. Giorgio Mangano making a great pass at the expense of Tomoki Yamanaka. The Italian there looking pretty pumped up and
slightly deaf after sitting next to the Italian commentators when that happened. They are very, very happy about that.
Yeah, Ryota Kokuban taking a well-deserved victory. Lukovsky and Darush finishing in P2 and P3. Well-deserved, really, really mature drives from all three.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't think any of the drivers particularly want to be. I mean, obviously they don't want to be in the repechage. It's nice just to go straight through, but yeah, they really don't like being in the repechage.
No.
It takes the pressure off a bit, doesn't it? That's the thing. You know, all you have to focus on now is that grand final. The repechage, I think, as we've seen, you know, where we've had the oval races, the on-dirt races, and so on, it's just so frantic, and no one knows really what's going to happen.
Exactly. Lots of things can change very quickly. So we have the semi-final B results now up on screen there. So we have to say goodbye, obviously, to position 11 and 12. Yeah, Solis and Chu, they are no longer, they've lost their chance now. But obviously, positions 5 to 10 are going to go through to that repechage race for their final chance to make it through to the final. Oh, I do love a repechage.
It's a crowd pleaser.
Yeah.
I wonder what these guys are going to make it.
Yeah, and what a crowd to watch it to as well. Let's be fair, they're pretty pumped up, this lot, aren't they?
Very much so. I mean, they do go absolutely crazy anytime their kind of homeboys are making some power moves, which is really, really nice to see. It just goes to show, you know, these people may not specifically have come here to watch the Gran Turismo champs, but have just been kind of drawn in.
The amount that are staying. We have a massive crowd to the right, again up on the balcony as well. They're all just completely entranced by this, and who can blame them?
Yeah, what is it? It's 6 o'clock local time. It's closing time nearly for these guys, for the show, actually. Yeah. So the fact that they're all sticking around is just absolutely mega. We're going to be hearing, I think, from a couple of Japanese competitors down on the stage in a few moments' time, I believe. So we'll be looking forward to hearing what they have to say, I think. So I think let's go down to that now, and shall we, and find out exactly what's going on. We'll try our best to get it translated for you and give you the gist of what's happening down there.
Alright, Adriano, how was it?
So this is Adriano Carazza there. He'll answer in English.
So the race is very tough, and the first corner I tried to brake later, and I gained the first position, and after that I just stay calm and focus, and it's very hard race.
本当にタフなレースだったんですけど、序盤ね、とにかくプッシュして前に
He
立って、
seems very calm and collected. He was very calm and collected all the way through, quite unfazed by everything.
It's a new position for him to be in. He's not used to winning races and being at the front, so soak up the pressure from Coco Lopez the entire race. It was really quite impressive there for Carazza.
No, he's just all
So
literally.
it was a brand new released machine.
Yeah, we've got him now
Wasn't
just
it
there
difficult
talking
to
about
adjust?
the Vision Gran Turismo car.
My first
Adriano
drive in this
Carazza.
car, so it's really good. The power is amazing, and the aerodynamics is great, and I like a lot this car.
まあこのマシンね初めて走行させてもらったんですけど、本当パワーもあってね、とてもなんか新しい感じで良かったんですけれども、ちゃんと自分もそれマネージでき
So
て、
chill, look at
ちゃ
him.
んとした走
It's
行
like
で
they're
き
just
たの
standing
で
at
良
a
か
bar
った
having a
と思
chat.
ってます
Just, yeah, you know, just one.
それでは
It's fine.
And one of those tuxedos.
I love. Why do we not
Sharp
wear
dressed man.
tuxedos? We should be wearing
So,
tuxedos.
the finals coming up. What are you looking forward to?
So I think the strategy, I don't know what style I begin. So just focus and stay calm. It's gonna be alright.
まあ今ね戦略を練ってるところなんですけど、まだ
Just
ちょっ
stay
とタイ
calm.
ヤ
It's
が
going to be
ね
all right. I feel like that should be our
迷
motto.
ってる
I think
と
that's
ころなんですけ
tell
ど
it to
まあ
put you in a bed, you know, like it'll
Just
be all
stay
right.
calm. Everything will be okay in the end.
If it's not okay, it's not the air. Then, so there we are. Nice to hear from our hosts down on the ground then here in Tokyo, and thanks to Adriano Carazza. He just looks really at ease, doesn't he? That's the thing.
It's like whatever. Yeah, it's totally cool. I mean, sorry, I didn't see you there. I just won that race. No problem at all. I kind of feel sorry for the guys in semi-final B who basically have like about 3 minutes to kind of recompose themselves and then get back into the repechage. It seems quite, whereas obviously semi-final A, they could go off, get a cup of coffee, come back.
Have a bit of a chill. I think we're going to talk to our semi-final B winner, Ryota Kokubun, down on the stage in just a couple of moments. So, again, we'll do our best to translate Ryota's answers for you, get the gist of the conversation that is happening down there on the stage here in Tokyo. Now, we just got our Japanese commentators just discussing through a few things on stage here at the moment. And, of course, you can see Ryota Kokubun down there as well. So hopefully get a bit of a word there for him. Don't forget, of course, you can watch us in multiple different languages for the FIA Gran Turismo World Tour. We've got us in French there. Gran-turismo.com/FR.
If you want to learn some very, very loud, aggressive versions of different European languages, it's useful.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
If you want to learn shouty Portuguese, we've got you covered.
I mean, to be fair, the Italians we've got, they communicate by shouting anyway, so it's a good way to do it.
Yeah, I feel it's a shame we haven't got them on camera because most of how they speak is with their hands, like nearly knocking things over. It's great. It's great to watch.
I've got Ryota Kokubun here, just trying to hear what he's saying. Just saying it was a very tough race and all the players coming after him, but just going on and talking about what he was thinking about through the race. Saying that he tried to put on very accurate braking points and just tried to be a bit careful over the course of that one. And he said we haven't seen, of course, a Japanese driver winning the Nations Cup so far. He said it's the first time for him to come this far in the Nations Cup, so wants to do well in the final. So Ryota Kokubun, nice to hear from him there.
I mean, I know we were saying that there's like a kind of power bust, like boost, obviously being here in Japan, but actually then you can sort of flip that whole theory the other way in the sense of like there is nation's pride. You feel the pressure to do better just because you are in the place where everyone's. They can hear every time they make a pass, the entire crowd goes crazy, like that's good and it's bad in a way. I suppose it depends how you interpret it like while you're racing.
Yeah, I think so. And again, Kokubun is the kind of guy who he's so chilled out. He's so calm. I've never seen anyone look so non-fussed about winning a race here in a World Tour event. That's just how he is.
Yeah, this is in Salzburg when we saw Takuma Miyazona finishing on the podium. And this is just a recap of what happened last time out for the World Tour in Salzburg.
That was when we had the conversation about him being like, oh yeah, stress. I just try not to think about it. I'm like, whatever you're taking, give me some of it because amazing.
He wins World Tour 4 of the Gran Turismo Nations Cup.
That was goodness me. What a season it's been. It's been mega, isn't it? Why has it gone so quickly as well?
I don't understand what's happened with our lives. How are we now at this point where basically the world final is it's less than a month away?
I know.
What are we doing with us?
Exactly.
How have we got here?
We were only back in Paris like last week, weren't we, or something?
I think it's a fever dream.
Oh, yeah, one of those.
Don't forget, of course, you can vote for the Michelin Driver of the Day, who you think has really stood out as an exceptional driver. We do want to hear from you, so do let us know, because obviously he'll be awarded a prize at the end, I believe.
Well, the prize, of course, being an interview with one of us.
Well, I mean, if you want to call that a prize, some people could maybe pay for that. I don't know. There's some weird things on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
I'll stay away from that subject.
Yeah. I'm really, really excited about the repechage race. I can see everyone's kind of sitting down and getting ready. They tend to be quite kind of scrappy, which is why I like them. I mean, obviously drive professionally always, but a little bit of scrappy can't go. It's not too, just a little bit. Just a little bit of a nudge.
Speaking of scrappy, this is where this is going to be taking place. The Tokyo Expressway South Inner Loop. Lots of very long, very heavy overtaking zones down here. Sector 2, 10, 11 is the one I'd pick for my overtaking down there. But it's a very fast run down there, especially in these cars as well. It's going to be quite easy for an overtake. Also quite easy to make a mistake down there. Quite a bit of elevation change at this circuit. 24 meters between the lowest point and the highest point as well. And it being a street circuit, meaning there's not really much room for error around here.
No, the error being that you hit the barrier on the outer or inner side of the circuit, depending on how badly it goes. N500 cars, this is the first time we've seen N500 cars since Paris, I believe, actually. So it's been a long time since we've seen those out on track. And sports hard tyres at the Tokyo Expressway South inner loop, times 5 fireware, fuel times on 1, slipstream setting on weak, as you can see. No fuel consumption really to worry about. Tyre wear shouldn't be too much of an issue. It's just a flat-out sprint over those 6 laps, rather, I should say, to the checkered flag.
Just to double check and verify that I'm getting this the right way around. So if they don't make it this time, this is their last opportunity to get through to the world final?
Yeah, I guess it is. I mean, the world qualifier.
Yeah.
You have to get through the repechage and then win the last race. So it's going to be a big
so like it's literally like last chance saloon for this season.
Yeah.
Ooh,
And
this is going to be good.
It's only 4 drivers that are going to make it through out of the 12 that are starting. So we lose 8 drivers from this.
Yeah, that's a lot of drivers. Yeah, let's take a look at the starting grid there. Oh, look, yeah, Mick down at 11th there. That's not to say he can't pull that back. I did give him some cookies beforehand. I feel like it maybe not helped him very much.
The thing is, I find with Mick is when he isn't taking it very seriously. I think he's very comfy that he's through now. He's just here for the holidays.
He's already qualified, isn't he? Yeah,
Of
having
course.
won last time out. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's very, very true. What do you reckon? How are you going to call this one? Who's going to... will there be blood?
It's difficult to say. I want to go for Sugawara.
Yeah?
You know? Yeah, I think he could be one to watch. Beauvoir's not been too bad. Yamanaka, 2 Japanese drivers, they're going to want to make it through. It's home pro pride, isn't it, more than anything? You know.
Yeah, but then it's also about racing well and the right way. I don't know. There's a lot of kind of things that join together.
End of the day, if you don't finish in the top 4, you're going home. So
it's true.
Be scrappy, get there. Miyazano as well, I think our biggest casualty from the first semi-final. If he's not through, then that'll be a horrible result for him. Let's go through then. Get the repechage underway.
The repechage race for World Tour 5 here in Tokyo for the 2019 FIA Gran Turismo Championships to get underway very shortly indeed. N500 cars for these drivers, so road going machinery on the Tokyo Expressway. It's Takuma Miyazono, the hometown favourite, who lines up on pole position, and you can hear the crowd here, but his fellow countryman Tomoki Yamanaka alongside him on the front row of the grid. Row 2, Baptiste Beauvoir, the Frenchman. And on the second row as well, it is Tatsuya Sugawara. Hear the crowd behind us. I hope you can, because that is mega. Manuel Rodriguez there in P5, the speedy Spaniard. And then Salvatore Mariglino, the Italian, in P6. Rick Cavallon there in P7. Had a difficult day so far following the contact he had in the opening stages of this weekend. Alonso Regalado is down there in P8, the Peruvian driver. And following up behind him is then Patrick Blajan in 9th position. In P10, it is Kevin Pounder, the American. See what he can do. Turismo Windfire, as you might know him online. Mikhail Hazal down there in P11. Of course, pressure off for him. He doesn't need to qualify for the world final, but he'll want to finish up as high as possible. And Kim Long Lee down in 12th place.
Now, Mick Hazal was saying to me before the race, if I end up in the repechage, I hope I'm in the SLR McLaren, because it is fast around this circuit. And hey, there he is. So we might see a charge for the field here. But a bit of a short run to the line. It's a rolling start, as we tend to have in these repechage events. Miyazano not done too well from pole today. 2 poles, 2 issues in the races beforehand. Let's see if he can lead better off this time in the repechage.
Drivers then ready to come around the final corner and over the timing line to get this repechage race underway. Strategy is out the window. No pit stops to take place. It's an all-out sprint to the checkered flag. And who will be the 4 drivers that make it through to the grand final? We're about to find out as the repechage race at the Tokyo Expressway for World Tour 5 on the 2019 Gran Turismo Championships is underway. Then Miyazono leads the field away as Tomoki Yamanaka comes into the slipstream, as does Baptiste Beauvoir. Look at Sugawara as well. He's very close behind Manuel Rodriguez as they all duck and dive and head down towards the left-hander of turn 1. It's Miyazono who holds firm, as does Yamanaka in second, Beauvoir and then Sugawara. Further back, drivers getting very close amongst one another, but that was a surprisingly clean first corner from pretty much everybody.
Everyone knows now that one mistake is going to effectively cost them the chance to go through, but Now we're coming down to one of the heaviest braking zones on the course. You see there Sugawara getting smashed into the wall by Beauvoir. He goes defensive coming into the hairpin, all heavy on the brakes. Miyazono through in first, but Beauvoir's made a big mistake, very wide there. Yamanaka goes up into second place, and Sugawara, 3 wide on the inside, goes up to third place. At the front of the field, Yamanaka is going to get by Miyazono. What a corner there for the Japanese driver in the GTR, embarrassing his countryman, going from third to first place. What a move there by Yamanaka.
Miyazono ran wide into the hairpin. That allowed Yamanaka to draw alongside and pull through into that corner. Here we go then with Beauvoir and Mariglino side by side between the Italian and the Frenchman through the right-hander. They're all off into the wall there. There's a smattering of contact as they get ready then to come down the long run into the hairpin, which will follow. This is the best chance to slipstream and find your way past the drivers in front. Incident under investigation meanwhile for Kim Long Lee and Patrick Blajan, but look at Alonso Regalado. He's now up into P6, challenging Manu Rodriguez for P5. As they come through the right-hander, they'll go hard on the brakes into the very, very tight hairpin, and it's now Beauvoir in third place, just ahead of Sugawara here as things stand. So now the Frenchman is ahead, and at the moment through, but it's all kicking off a bit further back here.
The second heavy braking zone there, I think we're a bit cleaner than the first one. Luckily for us and the drivers there. On board now with Sugawara inside the Ford GT. Love the cockpit inside that car. Getting an idea of what this guy is looking at right now. See how close the walls are. You have to drive the car out of the wall like it isn't there. Try not to touch it. So you're right down. And meanwhile, Patrick Blajan down in last place is slapped with a 1-second penalty. And that's not going to help his race, given that he's already last at the moment.
Yeah, we didn't see what happened there for Patrick Blajan on screen at that moment, but clearly contact with himself and Kim Long Lee owing to that 1-second penalty for the Hungarian driver. There is Manu Rodriguez. Pretty close there behind him is Alonso Regalado in P6. Little bit of a gap there just ahead of, just behind him rather, I should say, is Salvatore Mariglino in 7th and Rick Kevlar. Meanwhile, the top 3 subsequently have also managed to break a gap away. Yamanaka, Miyazono and Beauvoir. So your top 3 sits like that. Here comes Miyazono trying to draw alongside his fellow countrymen as they come through the left-hander. This is looking pretty good indeed as they are on lap 2 here. Miyazono versus Yamanaka, and Miyazono goes through with the slipstream into P3, into the lead rather, P3 of Beauvoir. Meanwhile, is challenging for second place against Yamanaka, trying to go the long way around the outside through there, but he's hung out to dry. He's got no room to move and use the momentum that he gained, and he subsequently does hold on to that third place.
Yeah, that Lamborghini quite quick in a straight line there, managing to hold off the GTR, the turbo brick as I love to call it. And now coming into the next part of the section, a car with good high-speed handling, really thrives through this fast section here, through the tunnel. In we go then now. Beauvoir is exploring the wall side. I see him pinballing at the moment. That's not going to help his run coming now down the straight, though. He is quicker than Yamanaka in the slipstream, using the toe in his NSX. Can he make a move there coming through the right-hander? End of this straight is a very heavy braking zone. We're on board with the Frenchman now. Someone who didn't qualify very well initially, but now is in a good opportunity to go through to the grand final. Flick the car into the right. Yamanaka gets it slightly wrong. That's going to slow him up on the exit. Now come down to the hairpin. Yamanaka sits on the inside line, squeezes Beauvoir to the outside. I mean, really squeezes him, gives him nowhere to go. Yamanaka sits on the inside line, does not want to give that up, and just about retains second. And meanwhile, in the back of the field, Mick Hazal moves up to 8th.
Harsh but fair driving there from Tomoki Yamanaka. No penalties issued in a separate incident between Beauvoir and Mariglino then in that incident that took place earlier on. But here comes Beauvoir now challenging against Yamanaka once again. He's not close enough to mount anything as things stand at the moment, but it's getting pretty exciting between all of these drivers. Don't forget, of course, the top 4 will make it through to the grand final. At the moment, it's Sugawara who is on the bubble in 4th place there. Just behind him is Manu Rodriguez and Salvatore Mariglino, also not too far adrift as things stand. But Beauvoir and Yamanaka looking pretty racy. That has allowed Takuma Miyazono to just build up a bit more of a gap out in front.
Here we go then. Over the line to start another lap, and now we're going to be coming down this left-hand, a very tricky left-hander. It's kind of blinding the way, and Yamanaka's gone far too quick on the way. He's going to tag the wall. That's going to allow Baptiste Beauvoir surely to move up into second place. There it is, an easy move there from the Frenchman. Yamanaka just not judging the corner correctly, and is now back down to third position now. Oh, Rodriguez in the background up to 4th as well. So right now he is through in the automatic qualification spot. There's a big train behind him, and we come down again to the hairpin. Rodriguez on the inside of Sugawara in the Lexus LC500, heavy on the brakes, hug the inside here. Mariglino pushing Sugawara wide, as is Regalado, the Peruvian driver there in the BMW M3. That's quite big by comparison to the other corners. And of course in the back lurking is Mick Hazal, our winner from last time out of Salzburg. So this race is far from over.
This is absolutely mega stuff as these drivers running nose to tail. It was a 3-way scrap for position. It's now nearly a 7 or 8 way scrap for track place, and you can see as we ride on board with Mick Hazal, that McLaren Mercedes SLR is looking pretty handy at the moment. There is Mick Hazal, as always, looking cool as a cucumber and showing no emotion on his face in any way, shape or form. Sugawara, though, in front of him, how fortunes have changed. He was in P4 half a lap ago. He's now down in 7th, potentially 8th place here, as Mick Hazal now tries to challenge and go past him. Wave to the camera there from Hazal, so you can tell he's having a bit of fun with it. There's an incident under investigation between the German and the Japanese driver. We don't quite know what that is all about. However, the stewards have deemed it an investigatable incident, so hopefully we'll get some answers very shortly indeed.
So Mick there, making his way through the hairpin. Meanwhile, ahead Maragino and Regalado having a bit of a scrap. And the Maragino coming up better of that one in 5th position now. Yamanaka is having to defend from Manuel Rodriguez again. He's going backwards here. We've seen this from Yamanaka. Under pressure, he starts to make mistakes. We saw it yesterday in the Manufacturers' Cup. We're seeing it today now in the Nations' Cup. But this time, this is to go through to the Grand Final. He needs to retain this position or 4th. And the thing is, one mistake around here, and there is a train of cars waiting to get through. And Regalado there, the Peruvian driver, sliding that M3, just nipping the wall on the way through. Looks good, not fast though.
Goodness me, this is absolutely mega as all these drivers run nose to tail. So 4th place really becoming under threat now for Manuel Rodriguez. 3rd place even for Tomoki Yamanaka coming under threat as well. Beauvoir and also Miyazono looking like they've got a little bit more of a cushion, a little bit more comfortable out on track as things stand. Lap 4 out of 6 we are on now as we started here at the Tokyo Expressway South Inner Loop. And it is all to play for in this repechage race. The first 4 drivers will be the last 4 to qualify for the grand final event here in Tokyo. Here is Maraglino riding on board with him, using the slipstream there, going for the outside line as Maraglino goes defensive, then Rodriguez goes defensive. Maraglino on the outside here. They come hard on the brakes in towards the right-hander of the hairpin, and it's going to have to be careful here, Maraglino, because Regalado could try and pick up the pieces if he runs too wide. He doesn't though, but he does on the exit, and here comes Regalado. Then Maraglino shuffled out, but he's got the inside line for the next left-hander. Rodriguez runs wide there as well subsequently, and side by side they come between Maraglino, who's now in to 4th place ahead of Rodriguez.
As predictably, a cheer from the Italian commentators next to us. An interesting mistake there from Rodriguez. Really shouldn't be making that mistake at this point. And now they're all getting stuffed up coming into the tunnel as the mistake slows the entire field down. Hazal is on the right of us. A 3-wide sandwich coming into the tunnel now. Hazal on the inside of Sugawara for the fastest corner of the circuit. And contact there with Regalado puts him in the wall. So that might be looked into by our stewards, but Hazal momentarily up into 7th place. Meanwhile, Sugawara is now trying to pick up the pieces of Rodriguez, who had a bad run coming through the tunnel due to the issues going in. But Maraglino, most importantly, now up into 4th position. And more importantly, if the race ended now, he'd be going through to the grand final.
Well, there's still 2 more laps left to run here, so let's not count our chickens just yet, because given how unpredictable this repechage race has been so far, it could prove to get very exciting indeed. Over the next few laps. Mick Hazal has been slowly making his way meanwhile through the field. He's now up into P7, but I don't quite know if he's got the pace to try and challenge Sugawara and Rodriguez. They're just in front. Warning there against Mick Hazal, as well as I say that for contact with another car. I think that was with Alonso Regalado out on track. Now the Peruvian is down into P8, and Hazal has really closed that gap up onto Sugawara now in P6, so it's not going the way of the hometown favourite in his hometown, on his home track here at the Tokyo Expressway. As you can see, Mick Hazal drawing alongside Sugawara. They're going to go left for the inside corner there of the left-hander of turn number 1, but Hazal doesn't have the speed to use it, and he doesn't get past Sugawara there. He had a really good run, but did he just back out of that going into that corner?
Not sure there. I thought he would have went for that move there, but anyway, Hazal in 7th place. If he does want to go through to the final here, he's got a lot to do and not much time to do it in. Now coming down to the hairpin once more. Let's see if there are any moves made on this lap. We have a lap and a half left to go here in the repechage race. Top 4 go through, rest go home in the background. Regalado and Pounder having a bit of a scrap there. Regalado trying to defend that 8th position, but really they should be focusing on going forward. Beauvoir there in the frame. Yamanaka still just about holding 3rd. This time he's defending against Maraglino. I think for him this will be his first grand final if he can get through, so I'm sure he's keen on holding on to that 4th position. Now through into the tunnel once more. Very much one line through here. We've seen what happens if you try and run side by side. There's contact, and at the moment it seems they're going to go through one by one. Lap and a half to go at this point.
All ready to play for then. Here comes Maraglino getting really close onto the back of Tomoki Yamanaka. Incident under investigation meanwhile between Kevin Pounder and Alonso Regalado in further down the order rather I should say. for those two drivers. Pounder in 10th place, Regalado in 8th. So let's see what happens with those guys. Let's see what happens with Mariglino. He's really attacking now as Yamanaka has to defend then. And Mariglino going for the outside line, but look who's on the inside. There is Rodriguez side by side as Mariglino is up the inside of Yamanaka. Contact as well with Manu Rodriguez as they come through. So Yamanaka is really shuffled out to dry here as Mariglino now through into 3rd place, Rodriguez into 4th, and the Japanese driver at the moment, as it stands, is out of the grand final.
A big mistake there from Yamanaka. He had it all in the bag, and again the pressure just getting to the Japanese driver, I think, just not quite able to perform under these circumstances. But it's not over just yet. We have just over 1 lap to go, and there are a couple of big overtaking opportunities here. We know that Skyline, that Nissan GTR I should say, sorry, is quick through the medium speed corners. If he can be close enough to Rodriguez coming out of the hairpin at the bottom of the circuit here, he may have a chance to reclaim that 4th position. But right now, Miyazano 1st, Bourgeois 2nd, Mariglino 3rd, and Rodriguez, the car in front of us on camera right now, in 4th. Riding with Yamanaka through the left hand. You see Rodriguez getting a bit sideways in that LC500. And now the long run down to the hairpin. Can Yamanaka get any closer and try and get this move made and get back up into 4th position, and more importantly, back through to the grand final?
It's getting hugely exciting between these drivers. Here is Tatsuya Sugawara, then here is Mick Hazal trying to challenge. Side by side they go with Hazal, who's going to have the inside line for the right-hander. Hard on the brakes they go. Sugawara on the outside, Hazal on the inside, and Hazal through into 6th place. Brilliant driving there from Mikael Hazal. It's going from bad to worse for the Japanese drivers here in Tokyo. And now Sugawara goes down into 6th place on the final lap here.
7th place there, Tom.
7th place, yep.
But yeah, I don't think Mick's done enough to perhaps get a place here. He's a bit too far back at the moment. Meanwhile, this man, Miyazono, he's led an absolutely fantastic race from pole position. We questioned his ability to lead from the front earlier on after the mistakes in the first running of semi-final A, but right now in the repechage he is dominant. 2.1 seconds between him and Bourgeois. If he can keep it clean through his hairpin, the race is his.
As we saw with his fellow countryman Ryota Kokuban last time out, it's a nice mature drive from Takuma Miyazono, and it has been very impressive to see him doing so well out on track to just keep that gap at a constant to Baptiste Beauvoir, who also again has driven very maturely in this race in P2. Rodriguez has gone wide. Is they going to allow Yamanaka an opportunity on this final lap then here? So this is getting very exciting indeed, and Yamanaka is going to have the slipstream advantage as they come down then now into the final series of corners. I think it might just be a bridge too far here for Yamanaka, unless he can try and invent something, unless Rodriguez makes another mistake. But through into the final series of corners comes your race leader.
Yeah, Miyazono coming for the left-hander, and a great race by him. He recovered well from the issues earlier on. He's going to go through to the final here, but Mariglino has been given a 1 second penalty. Yeah, more that change the results. We'll see. Miyazono first, Bourgeois second, Mariglino third for now, and Rodriguez just about holding off Yamanaka for 4th. He will be absolutely heartbroken with that one with Yamanaka. Look at him slumping in his seat. Bourgeois looking equally as nonplussed. But Miyazono there, our winner for the repechage, and he'll be going through to the final where arguably I think he belongs.
Well, that was absolutely mega. No emotion there from the Japanese drivers there. Takuma Miyazono, as we look at him on your screen, just keeping himself calm and cool after that one. There is Mikael Hazal. He gave it as good as he got, but it wasn't enough to make it through to the grand final here.
Well, that was a bit of a shuffle as well. Obviously, the Japanese were so dominant right at the start of that, and then it all just went all over the place. But then, obviously, Miyazono bringing it back at that last minute. That's I kind of feel like that's what was supposed to happen, really. He's so normally like very calm and collected. Maybe he just needed that race to kind of like just refocus a little bit, you know.
Yeah, it was really exciting, wasn't it, over the course of that one. I have to say that I was really impressed with Takuma Miyazono's drive. Interesting, though, for Salvatore Mariglino, right at the end, hit with that 1 second penalty. Now, I was looking at the times. I think it will demote him down to 4th place, but I don't think it will take him out of contention for the grand final. So I don't think it'll change the result too much.
Yeah, we'll wait for that graph to come up before we officially say anything. We've had a couple of results right now that have been decided post-race, so we'll see what happens. Now, a couple of highlights from the race, of course. Here was the moment that Yamanaka, we thought, got up into first, but made a couple of mistakes along the way. And Miyazono, who was back to second, here was the overtake, then running on the way down to the hairpin, goes back up into the lead. And Yamanaka then, just these little mistakes, hitting the wall every now and then, a few sparks being thrown up. And again there, another mistake. Bourgeois goes up into the lead. And the thing is, I can see him sitting on the sofa right now, head in his hands. He is not a happy boy.
Yeah, it's been a challenging time out there for some of those drivers. There was Rodriguez and Regalado going side by side. Incident under investigation between those two for contact there out on track. Here is Yamanaka. It just went from bad to worse, didn't it, for Yamanaka? He got involved in one bit of strife there with Maraglino going through. He had a bit of contact there with Manu Rodriguez and just slipped back through the field. Just didn't really click for him at all in that one, did it?
Not at all, but it did click for this man. Takuma Miyazono led from the front, took the win. He'll be going through the final. We still need to wait for the final results to see if Maraglino will be going through. But you see the sigh of relief there.
On his face there.
Yep, I needed to do that before.
Wow.
Here are the results. So with the penalty, Maraglino does stay in third place, so that's confirmed. Miyazono, Baptiste Bourgeois, Maraglino and Rodriguez go through to final. I think it's the first time we've had two Spaniards in one of our final for a long time.
For a long
anyway.
time, yeah, definitely.
And of course, the rest of the drivers going home. Ignore the graphic at the bottom there. Everyone else goes home.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it.
Right.
So yeah, we've got our final drivers then. That's it's exciting. I can't. Time is moving too quickly. I don't like it. I can't believe it's. Sorry, I'm really having
Time
issues.
does pass, Julia.
It does, especially
I
with
think
these
that
drivers. My goodness. Yeah, we're sort of setting up for an interview there with Miyazono. Miyazono looks almost like he needs to take a sleep. He looks almost like physically drained and exhausted by that whole experience.
Yeah, let's see what Miyazono's got to say. Asking him how he feels about the race. Oh, says he's relieved after that race. So if you think about it, you had a wonderful time in Tokyo so far, but you had a tough race there in the semi-final. And I think a bit of concentration there for Miyazono. What kind of race are you expecting for the final? I have to win, as he says. That is the only thing I aim to achieve. So there we are, hearing from Takuma Miyazono down on the stage here in Tokyo. I think he's made his intentions very clear indeed. I have to win. That's all I'm aiming to achieve.
Very focused. Very, very focused, wasn't it? I mean, you see him there. Almost he didn't want to answer the questions. He wanted to be taken out of that flow, of that mindset. He wants to get back in the car as soon as he can and just get down to business. Unfortunately for him, though, going from the repechage, he's going to be quite far down the grid in the last race.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one, isn't it?
It's definitely one of those things where we're talking about the sort of the boosted, but also the pressure. You can see that because it's nation's pride. He's here in Japan. He's got to do the result. And honestly, he looks physically. I don't know how he's going to do going into this because I feel like that took so much concentration and so much out of him.
It's been a long time coming though for him, hasn't it? If you think about it, I know we have all these World Tour events and it looks really, fantastic and wonderful, but obviously we've had such a long time since we were in New York and then of course then going to Salzburg as well. The long breaks between these events, so it makes things really, really interesting, doesn't it? And of course it changes it because he had really bad luck last time in New York and better luck in Salzburg. Can he have better luck? Well, he's got the pressure on him here.
Yeah, we have there to the left-hand side some highlights from the last World Tour event over at Salzburg.
There's been so many.
Yeah, it's been a mega season, hasn't it?
Just amazing. Like when you think about everything that's happened, and also comparing the World Tour to last year, just the standard of driving, the standard of racing is just beyond what we can kind of imagine, and it just keeps getting better and better. It's getting harder to call stuff, if you noticed. Whereas last year it seemed a bit easier. This year it's really difficult to kind of make our hot picks are basically.
Well, I remember our first event back at Nürburgring last year. A mistake there, you can still get through. One mistake in this series now, and you are out. That's the end of it.
It's very true.
The thing is, as well, is that these drivers, they've got to be pretty careful out there because the likes of Takuma Miyazono, he's one of the drivers who hasn't got that automatic qualifying spot for the Grand Final. And he needs that, he needs that here tonight. This is his last chance saloon to try and do it. Here are the drivers you can see on your screen. Nicolas Rubelar, Igor Fraga, Mikhail Hazal, who have all qualified from the World Tour events. Will Takuma Miyazono be adding his name to that list? Maybe Rayan Darush, he's looked pretty strong here today. Koke Lopez, Cody Lukovsky. There's so many good names. Ryota Kokiman, after that performance he put in the semi-final B. It's all to play for.
I mean, you sort of forget how much these guys... Everyone wants to be in Monaco. That's the kind of jewel in the crown of the whole event, really. And everyone wants to be there. Everyone wants a chance to prove that they're their best, and if they don't perform now, that's it.
Yeah, it's not because of the 10-euro beer to get into Monaco either, to be honest with you. There's one advantage, though. It's pretty glamorous, isn't it, to be fair?
It's very nice.
You're going to love it, I can tell. Are you going to be driving in high heels this year again?
I hope not, or if not, they're going to warn me before doing it this time. I thought I did rather well, all things considered. Wait, okay, you tried. There were massive platform shoes.
To be fair,
I've never driven a GT3
I'd give
before.
my salary to see Jimmy in high heels, to be fair, driving a Mercedes or something.
Okay, let us know in the channel. Although to be fair, we should have some better forfeits for some of the commentator stuff. So if you lose, there has to be some kind of forfeit, I think.
I don't want to be part of that conversation, all right? Because I'm going to go downhill very quickly. It's the end of that.
There we go. So why don't we take a look at the final track that's going to be for today's proceedings. Let's take a look.
Yeah, it's coming up there now, so let's take a closer look at this circuit then. The Circuit de la Sarthe, Le Mans to you and me. It's a circuit that needs no introduction. We'll give it one anyway. You can see there, 13.6 kilometres long, broken up by some of the greatest tarmac in motorsports history. Tetra Rouge corner, the first chicane, the second chicane, the Mulsanne straight, Mulsanne corner down the bottom there, Indianapolis, Arnage, the Porsche curve, the Ford chicane at the back end of the track. Oh, it's just brilliant, isn't it?
One of the best tracks in the world. Some people don't like it. Those people are wrong.
Why do people not like it, Jimmy?
Huh?
Why do people not like it?
I think because they're not very good at it. It's what it is. I mean, the Porsche curves, I think, is one of the best sections of racetrack in the world anyway. You can see it on the screen there in the bottom left-hand corner. Now, we're going to be using the F1500 car, which is a late 80s-esque F1 car. Great to see that making an appearance here. It's nice to see a change to the Red Bull X2019. 8 laps, so quite a long race. And, of course, as with all our finals, we have to use all spec of tyres, the racing hard, the medium and the soft, and each tyre must be used for a minimum of 2 laps. So what we'll probably end up seeing is the hard tyre being the one shot off straight away. Tyre wear is at 8 times, meaning that 1 lap on the tyres is 8 laps of tyre wear. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. F1 cars at Le Mans doesn't really sound right, but I think it could be a lot of fun.
It's got the potential to work, hasn't it? That's the thing.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how this is going to turn out. It's going to be amazing, and then we're going to know who's going to Monaco. I need to calm down. I'm very excited today. I'm just excited to have a voice.
Who do you want to see go through to Monaco, though?
I think Miyazona.
You think Miyazona?
Yeah. I think, hometown. I think he's got a lot of pressure on here, and if he can come through, it would just be the greatest honour to him, and I think that'd be amazing.
We have a tyre strategy there, our predicted strategy on the left. As I said, racing hard tyre is going to get rid of that as soon as you can. It's 3.6 seconds a lap slower than the racing soft compounder tyre. We foresee the racing medium and the racing soft being used for 3 laps apiece, so the talented drivers out there, the ones that bet with tyre wear, might be able to make the racing soft last that bit longer for 4 laps. Tyre change speed, only 2 seconds around here, so it's not a massive pit stop, but of course tyre strategy as always is going to be very important.
I think it's gonna be a good one. I'm looking forward to this. Yeah, obviously Lukovsky as well. He's definitely going to be someone I think to watch out for. Do you think maybe now, as it's last race, all the let's be really sensible and make smart moves?
When has he ever been sensible?
Well, I feel like in the semi-final he was moderately sensible.
But here's our starting grid there for the final. Karatsa in a bit of an unfamiliar position. He'll be starting on pole. Rita Kokipa in second. Coco Lopez in third. And Nicola Lukovsky, Cody, they're giving us a thumbs up. He's in 4th position. Down the back of the field, Takuma Miyazono, arguably the favourite going into this this race here. He is down in 9th, so he has it all to do. How will he perform? We'll find out.
Yeah, I think Lopez as well. He's always around. He's always so keen. He's got a kind of really alert but sort of relaxed attitude to everything that's going on. Things don't seem to get him down too much, whereas other drivers, will come off and seem really downhearted. I've never seen him miserable from what's happened. He's always a bit okay, let's see what I can do next. And so much of it is up here, being able to brush off mistakes and move forward. So I don't know. His sort of progression is just really consistent.
Maybe it's his diet. Apparently he only eats bread.
He only eats bread?
Every time we go into lunch, he's just there with a plate full of bread. So I think
really?
Maybe
I tried that when I did that weird vegan thing for 2 months. It was not fun. All I ate was bread and peanut butter. It was because we were in Madrid and places. And they were like, no, have some meat. And I was like, this is not really working. Can I have some peanut butter? Thank you. I definitely think Coco Lopez is one too. And just the fact that obviously in that semi-final he was pushing all the way through right into the end for no reason at all.
I'd like to see Mangano do well as well. He was actually our first ever winner of any World Tour event it seems like ages ago now, last April back in Nürburgring.
Yeah.
He was our first ever winner, but hasn't really performed since then. So hopefully he can come back and do well. And of course, if he does that, we'll be deafened by the Italians to our right. So I'm kind of half hoping that doesn't happen.
Like
actually.
kind of hoping, kind of not. But then also, think about how much has changed since that very, very first World Tour. Like how many different faces we see, how the standard, like, you know, Rubala was saying, like, you know, it feels very much like I'm now the standard that I race at home, and that plays a huge difference because it is. I mean, even Igor Fraga was saying, like, sometimes I'm doing really well in the race, and then, like, you know, there's a bunch of cameras there. So I don't know, it's just getting better and better. Let's start this final here in Tokyo. So excited.
It is time then for the Nations Cup Grand Final here in Tokyo. World Tour 5 of 2019. F1500 cars on the grid, and here's how they line up, Jimmy.
Yeah, Adriano Carazza there on pole with the Brazilian liveried F1500. Behind him, local man, Ryoto Kokuban. Big career, from the Japanese audience. Coco Lopez there in third. What can he do from the second row of the grid? In fourth there, Cody Nikola Lukovsky, always someone to watch out for. In fifth, Nico Rubillard, the Chilean driver, already a winner. Can he do it again here at Tokyo? There, Rayan Derouche, the Frenchman, very fast in semi-final, but down on the third row of the grid there. On the fourth row, Adam Wilk there, the Australian driver. Great to see him here at another event, and one of the first times in the final for him. Giorgio Mangano, the Italian there, in the red liveried, reminds me of a certain manufacturer, that car in eighth. Miazano there in ninth place. He has it all to do there from nearly back of the grid. Baptiste Bourgeois, the Frenchman, is on 10th. And then rounding out the grid on the last row is Maraglino, the Italian, in 11th. And then behind him, Manny Rodriguez, the other Spaniard, in 12th. Standing start here.
Yeah, crucially, the first time we've seen a standing start in a Gran Turismo World Tour event in these F1500 machines. Soft tyres for the top three drivers, mediums for Lukovsky and Rubillard, softs for Derouche, and then harder mediums further down the order. How will the different strategies play out? You'd imagine that the soft tyres will be the best ones to start on. They'll get good grip away from the lights, and the lights go out, and we're underway here for the grand final of World Tour 5 in Tokyo. Who gets a good launch down to the first corner? Karat's got away well. Kokuman immediately on the defensive. Keep an eye out for Lopez trying around the outside through the Dunlop curve. All lots of big overtaking actions. They come down in towards turn one, but Karatza holds on. Second place is still going to be Kokuman. People going wide at that Dunlop corner there as well. Lukovsky makes ground. He gets ahead of Mangano as they all manage to make it through as they come sweeping down now. The under investigation there for the first corner incident. Maybe there was some contact.
Cleaner than I thought, to be honest. I think there was a bit of contact coming up to the S's for the first time, but we'll let the stewards look into that. Here's Coco Lopez, good start from him in third. Now they are vying for position back there. Miyazono already up to 7th position from 9th on the grid, making his intentions clear. Nice and early. He's on the medium compounder tyres, so I think what he's going to try and do is have a kind of medium to quick first stint, and then save the soft tyres maybe, depending on how he progresses through the field. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, Skaratza, Kokuban and Lopez all on the soft compounder tyre, looking to try and break away from the rest of the pack. Lukovsky has gone down to 5th position. Rublar's moved up into 4th. He's on board now with Derouche. You can see there on the right-hand gauge, that's a turbo pressure. Nearly 4.5 bar of pressure. That's a lot of boost, I can tell you that right now. And using it right now to get by Cody Lukovsky, who seems a little bit slow off the corner there, maybe having a bit of trouble shifting that car up through the gears. Derouche looked across to see what's happening. Cody didn't quite know either, but look at the draft there, 360 kilometers an hour before braking for the first chicane, and Derouche gets it very wrong, has to take to the gravel, and he'll go to the back of the grid. Big arms up in the air, that's frustration, and that promotes Miyazono up into 6th.
That could be curtains there for Darush's race. Still a long time to go, though, with 8 laps and, of course, tyre strategy to come. So it's all about the recovery now as the two Frenchmen on their home circuit here in Le Mans sit at the bottom of the field with Beauvoir and Darush. Here is Nicolas Roubillard in 5th position, 4th place rather, being harried by Cody Nicola Lukowski as they go through the Mulsanne corner then and up the straight heading towards Indianapolis. For the first time of asking, no further action at the first corner, deemed to be a racing incident, but Karatsa now coming under pressure from Ryota Kokiban, who's got the slipstream, got the closing speed, he's on the outside line, but look at the way he muscles his way through. That was absolutely brilliant there from Kokiban. It's like Karatsa was standing still there.
Yeah, that was odd, actually. He slowed down very dramatically, and Kokiban goes up into first position. Now coming down to Arnage, big heavy braking zone down here, and right now Kokiban, the Japanese driver, leading a big cheer from the crowd here.
The top 3 drivers are on the soft tyres, as you would begin to expect. Then it becomes the medium shod runners. The man who's lost out, of course, is Rand Darush. The fact he's on those soft compound of tyres meant that he needed to push early doors and get himself with the top 3. However, that hasn't happened. It's going to compromise the rest of his race quite badly here as a result of that. So you'd expect the medium and the hard compound drivers to be pitting in as soon as they possibly can. The hard compound more so than the mediums, that is for sure. I think it's a minimum of 2 laps they have to drive at this Le Mans circuit, the Circuit de la Sarthe. Meanwhile, Ryota Kokiban here, Jimmy, just putting out a bit more of a gap as Roubillard there has been hit with a penalty.
Yeah, that might be a course cut there. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Kokiban, though, showing his dominance in this F1500 car right now. The gap almost a second to Karatsa, just over after taking him just before Indianapolis. And what can he do now? So these soft runners seem to be focusing on getting as far away from the rest of the pack as possible right now. Kokiban has the best way of doing that. No one in front of him, no dirty air at all, but of course, conversely, no slipstream. So he might end up being attacked down the straight coming into the first chicane. Meanwhile, even though despite the penalty, Roubillard's doing very well to hang with his guys on the medium compounder tyre. Lukowski, though, starting to fall away a little bit, and Miyazano is starting to catch Lukowski. So let's watch him. Oh, there's been a mistake there, and looks like Karatsa's got by Kokiban. So just getting a little bit sideways there through the S's, and that allows Coco Lopez and Karatsa by. So just like that, Kokiban down to 3rd.
So easy to do so in these cars as they drive wheel to wheel. I tell you what, things have gone bad to worse for Rand Darush as well. He's going to be hit with a penalty as he makes his ascension back through the field on the soft tyres. But here comes Coque Lopez trying to challenge for the lead, but he lifted off there on the Mulsanne straight, just trying to back out of it and not get himself too far alongside Karatsa. Maybe trying to set himself up a little bit better. But now look at these 4 drivers running nose to tail. Roubillard's going to drop back as he's been hit with that penalty there for exceeding track limits of half a second. Now it becomes a 3-way scrap effectively on the second half of the Mulsanne straight. Mangano and Miyazono, there was an incident there. That's had no further action taking place against it, so they still sit in their positions as they are. But here comes Lopez. He's really beginning to close up onto the back of Adriano Karatsa, the Brazilian versus the Spanish driver, and it's looking pretty tasty between those two. Kokiban, though, he's there and thereabouts, and he'll want to get himself back out in front as soon as he can.
Got to be easier here, boys. Remember, you all need to be working together, use that soft compounder tyre and try and make that gap as big as possible. Nico Roubillard, despite the penalty, is coming back into play. 0.8 of a second now behind this little gaggle at the moment. And if he can get there, that'll be very impressive because, importantly, he's on the medium compounder tyre and these guys are on the faster compound. Let's have a look at a replay here. Here's what happened to Kokiban.
Yeah, through into the right. Oh, look at that. He got a bit of opposite lock going off through there, sent it straight into the barrier on the outside. That allowed Karatsa to go through, and also Coque Lopez subsequently as well. So that is a big shame there for Ryota Kokiban. He was lucky he didn't end up spinning around and facing the wrong way, because that could have gone far worse for him.
Yeah, definitely not. And Lukowski, I think, is having a bit of an issue. He's not got the slipstream now. These guys are all towing each other down the straight and putting away. Lukowski behind, not doing that. So here is Coque Lopez right now, right in the wheel tracks of Adriano Karatsa, just ahead. I love these liveries on these cars, by the way. Very reminiscent of the old school cars that used to run back, of course, in the late 80s in a certain open wheel Formula Series. We come now down to the Porsche curve. This is where these cars absolutely thrive. Lots of downforce on these cars from the front, rear wing, and the general body designs. You can really throw the cars through. Although if you're Coque Lopez, you'll be getting a big hit of dirty air from Karatsa. You can see straight away Karatsa is putting away as you come through there as Lopez tries to navigate the dirty air.
The two Italians are having a bit of a tete-a-tete out on the track by the looks of things. Brangano and Mariglino under investigation for an incident involving one another. That won't please either of them or our Italian commentators to the right of us as well. Here is Ryota Kokiban. We ride on board with the Japanese driver sitting pretty in third place as things stand, but he wants to get himself on that top step. We know that Miyazono also wants to get himself up there as well. Look at the way he just throws that car through the Ford chicane.
Trying to avoid that big sausage curb on the right there. Interestingly, Miyazano is going to come onto the hard tyre early, so I think what he's going to do is run 2 laps on the medium, 2 laps on the hard, then go to the soft on the end.
Well, that's what I'm expecting from the guys on the soft tyres at the moment. They're going to run 4 laps, the maximum they can possibly do in this race on those tyres. Then they'll change over to the mediums, then the hards, or the other way around, and run to the end of the race like that. That'll be quite interesting, because if it's quite as close as it is, it just depends on who's on the mediums, who's on the hards at the end of the race.
Yeah, we tend to see the soft tyre last the distance, though, very good driver. But let's see what Miyazano can do. He has to do something special here. After qualifying in 9th position for the final. Of course, he was the #1 qualifier coming into this event. He had the fastest lap time round here in this car over a single lap, even over his countryman, Kokiban, who we've just switched to now. But because of circumstance during the semi-finals, he's now found himself down in 8th place. On board now, Kokiban. Look at that speed rise, nearly 380 k's coming down to the first chicane, nearly 390 k's. Heavy on the brakes then, coming into the first Mulsanne chicane. Touching the curb on either side, easy on the power on the exit. These things have a lot of power, as you can imagine, those big fat rear tyres, putting that power to the road. And Coco Lopez having a little bit of an issue on the left-hand side, kicking up the dust, but Ryota goes right back into the slipstream. Again, we've seen that a couple of times now, but the car's just struggled, it seems. Maybe they're shifting a bit too late.
Possibly so, yeah. They've only got 5 gears, these things. They are geared for straight line speed, and that just shows how effective the slipstream is. But Ryota Kokiban, the upshot is for him now into P2. I'm fairly sure they're going to try and do one more lap on this soft compound of tyres and go for as long a distance as they possibly can on them within the rules in this race. Baptiste Beauvoir, meanwhile, the Frenchman's race goes from bad to worse. P11 and a penalty he's picked up, presumably for exceeding track limits over the course of this race. You can see the graphic on the left-hand side of your screen. Miyazono, Wilk, Mariglino, Beauvoir and Rodriguez have all made their first pit stops in this race. So let's see what is going to take place. Bit wide there for Karatza as he comes out of the Mulsanne corner as well, and that could potentially cost him just a little bit here. He's now a second adrift is Ryota Kokiban in 2nd place, but we know how effective that slipstream can be as we ride on board here with Coque Lopez, the Spanish driver, as they head in towards Indianapolis then for the 3rd time of asking. Through into the right-hander they go, and then into the left, and Lopez looking pretty good here, looking very calm and comfortable as things stand, and that's exactly what he wants to do. You know, he needs to be calm, he needs to be careful in this stage. They all really stand a lot more to lose than they do to gain in these early stages.
Yep, definitely, and well, I think maybe what Lopez is trying to, maybe he wants to sit in the slipstream, maybe he wants to sit here and just watch the action unfold, but I don't know about that. I wouldn't be doing that in this case. So these guys, again, the soft runners, we expect them to come in at the end of next lap right now. And I'm noticing as well that the medium runners have sort of dropped off a little bit. I think what's happened there is Cody has got past Rubelar and maybe forced him into a mistake somewhere, because right now Cody and Rubelar are the only medium runners left on track. I'm kind of perplexed as to why they didn't pit in and go for that the 4-lap soft strategy that we've seen everyone else seems to be doing. Maybe they're not confident they can get that soft to the end.
Possibly so. I mean, tyre wear is not expected to be too much of a factor. Now Kokiban and Lopez go in, but Karatza, crucially here, continues on for another lap. So Lopez and Kokiban think they've got to the end of the shelf life on their soft tyres. They both in turn go for the medium compound tyres. Lakovsky comes in off of the medium tyres onto the hard tyres for his middle stint. It's all kicking off here as Rubelar, Darouche and also Mangano in making different stops. Soft, medium and hard for those 3 drivers there as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out, and this is sort of the mid-race dip we expect with the strategy taking place, and it'll all kick off in theory towards the end.
It's kind of, oh hello, Kokiban looks like he's, no sorry, he was ahead, sorry, forgive me, I thought he jumped him in the pits there. But what I was going to say is that it seems that the toe is very important around this, so although Karatza has stayed out on the soft compounder tyre, he's no longer going to have the toe of anyone around him. He didn't have it before, he was driving from the front of the field, but maybe these guys can work together and do something here whilst Karatza is out on the lap on his own. It's a 20-second gap or so after the pit stop, so once Karatza comes in again, that'll be rectified back down to a more reasonable gap. But yeah, I'm surprised we saw them coming on lap 3. Also, Miyazano in 5th position now, so he's been working his way up the field, has gone for the hard compounder tyre and then going for a fast finish, the same as Cody. So Cody and Miyazano hoping to have a fast finish here. Is that going to pay off on the circuit with so many straights? We'll have to see. They
could be ones to watch, definitely. You know, those soft compound tyres. The difference in terms of lap times is quite significant, actually. We saw with the graphic of the start of this race. It's about 3 seconds between the slow tyre, the hard tyre, and the fast tyre, and about 1.7, 1.8 seconds between the medium and the soft. So it's definitely a big difference. Of course, it's a larger track, so of course that's magnified compared to what you would normally see. But it's going to be interesting. It's a case of if they've got enough time to try and, you know, make a move.
They've got to be clever. They've got to be clever here, both of these guys here. The ones who are watching need to be clever if they want to catch Karatza. Here is the leader right now, getting that beautiful livery. I love the Brazilian livery in that car. It looks absolutely stunning in my opinion. Coming up now towards Indianapolis. We're on board now, getting a great driver's eye view of what Karatza is seeing right now. And again, the speedo on the right, even without a toe, this thing is just pushing through the air, undoubtedly running quite a low downforce setting. Let's see if he's flat through the first part of Indianapolis. Watch that right foot there. No, a bit of a lift in the way, and I think he would have taken too much speed if he was flat through the first part. You can get away with it in an LMP1 car, not so much in one of these Formula-based cars. Then back on the brakes heavily for Arnage. Easy on the power out. It's the easiest place to spin the car, and then get ready for, in my opinion, some of the best corners on the planet, the Porsche curves. In a car like this, absolute dream. I love to be driving right now.
Manuel Rodriguez and Salvatore Mariglino having a bit of a ding-dong battle for P9. Mariglino just briefly ahead of the Spaniard for a time being, but Rodriguez having been hit with a penalty, presumably for track limits, as we've seen a few times so far in this race, means that he will have to serve that and should, in theory, drop back. Now, Wilk and Mariglino instant there under investigation separately as well. Wilk is now down into P12, so just worth bearing that in mind. Maybe there was a contact between those two on track.
So interesting, I've been watching the gap between Kokibun and Karatza, who now comes into the pit lane. Kokibun has been gaining. So maybe that soft compounder tyre had given up. So this is going to be interesting. Let's see if Karatza is going to come out ahead of Kokibun. Now, it's been a good lap for the Japanese driver. Karatza comes onto the medium compounder tyre, so it'll be the same compounder tyre, albeit a lap less wear on it. Kokibun comes through the last chicane, the fourth chicane. It's a long stop here, so we'll keep an eye on it. Here we go then, Kokibun over the start-finish line, inheriting the lead for now. Where is Karatza? Look to the left-hand side of your screen. Where when he comes out, Karatza does come on the pit lane, and my word, the gap has actually increased. The gap is now up to nearly 2 seconds, but although saying that, Kokibun manages to get a bit of that with just to run the speed coming through there. So the gap at 1.5 seconds right now, and Karatza has fresher tyres.
Well, that is good news there for Adriano Karatza. Of course, all these drivers now on the medium compound of tyres. As you say, into the pit lane comes Takuma Miyazono from P11, it said there on your screen. So that's because the prevailing field have, in theory, gone past him. Onto the soft compound of tyres for the closing stages there of this race, taking some fuel on board in these last few laps as well. Adam Wilk also onto the soft compound here as well. Now, Takuma Miyazono, of course, he's got drivers in front of him. However, they have all got another pit stop to make. So it's down to Miyazono to have the laps of his life here to get himself in the closing stages in a very competitive position.
That's what it's got to be now. Miyazono, get your head down, mate. If you want to win this, these next 4 laps have to be the best you've done all weekend. He's got Mariglino in front of him on the track and Rodriguez, who will catch fairly quickly on that soft compounder tyre. How quick it gets by those guys will dictate his result for the end of the race. Now, these 3 at the front, they're going to be aware of Miyazono. They're going to know that he'll be coming through the pack towards the end of the race. So they need to keep it as clean as possible and try and work together around here. When I say work together, I mean don't be lunging each other into every corner. Use the toe of each other. If someone is coming by on a straight, let them by. Don't fight them, and just try and use each other's toe to catch up to Karatza in front and just have a faster lap overall. This is going to be a great finish, and as always, just ramping up to the last few laps here at the World Tour 5 event in Tokyo.
I'm so interested to see what it's going to be like between Koke Lopez and Cody Lukovsky as well, because he's, of course, as is Miyazono, going to be on that soft compound of tyre. Out of position now is Miyazono, of course, as we said. Lukovsky having gone on for another lap longer than the man who was chasing him in this race. Now, a penalty there for Koke Lopez, half a second. That's for track limits, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that is going to compromise him here.
Easy to do that around here. That'll be a couple of Spanish swear words, I think, inside the head of his right there. Very easy to do that. The track limits are very strict around Le Mans. They have to be, otherwise you can gain a lot of time. And although he is the slipstream of Kokibun right now as they backfire in the cars as they go by, I love that noise so much. Yeah, he's going to lose out coming out of Arnage here. Arnage in the big acceleration zone, so slowing out of any acceleration zone is pretty much the worst thing you can do to a driver. And then you see him drop off now, crosses the line, and then bam, 0.5 per second, and that gap on the left-hand side of your screen goes up dramatically.
Ryota Kokibun there in second place. It's been pretty quiet for him in these mid stages of the race. This is what we're used to seeing with the races with strategy. It should all, in theory, liven up a bit towards the end, depending on these strategies. But Adriano Karatza there has done a really good job with those fresher medium compound of tyres. He's really got them switched on. The gap now sits at just under 2 seconds between himself and Ryota Kokibun. A penalty there for Manuel Rodriguez and also Adam Wilk, as we can see on screen at the moment. So just worth bearing that in mind. We didn't see what happened between Wilk and Mariglino as it was earlier on, but clearly the stewards decided not to investigate that incident any further between those two drivers. But look at the way Corazza launches that car over the curb. I mean, that ultimately is what caused the drivers to do so well in the top 6 qualifying session.
Definitely. So here we go. Cody Lukowski comes onto the soft tyre for the last part of the race. Now the pieces are starting to fall into place here at Le Mans. Where will Cody come out? That's very important for this race and for his race as well. Opting not to put much fuel in the car either on the way out. The minimum fuel possible to get to the end. Any time spent fueling is time lost, and you're carrying that time all the way around with the additional weight of the fuel. We're on board now with Ryuta Kokubun. The gap has kind of stayed around 1.6, 1.7 seconds all the way through this second stint, although Corazza has a better run out of Touch Rouge and starts to increase that gap. Importantly for Kokubun, he's out the draft.
That is it, yeah, for Ryuta Kokubun, so that is really going to compromise him here. Nicholas Rubelar has been hit with a penalty as well. I am guessing that is for track limits, because we haven't seen an incident under investigation for the Chilean driver, and that could be a shame there for him. He's 8.1 seconds off the back of this trio of drivers who are leading the way at the moment, but it's still going to help him close up that gap. He's on the soft compound of tyres here, is Rubelar at the moment, and of course he's got a hell of a job actually to close that gap down. He's got to make one more pit stop here, and he's going to be on the slower compounds of tyres towards the end of this one. You can see all the drivers who have still got to make pit stops all inside the top 5 positions now. Everybody else has pitted and are on their final way in this race for the last 2-3 laps here. 2.5 laps is probably the better way of putting it at Le Mans.
Corazza currently leading the way. He has to really maximise this in lap now. Meanwhile, we'll go back down through the field. This is Darush and Rubelar having a bit of a fight. Now Darush on the medium compounder tyre, Rubelar on the soft. So he has a bit of a speed advantage there over Darush in the corners. But of course, coming down the slipstream, not quite as much. Here we are looking back from Ray and Darush there. You can see the Chilean driver just behind. Now watch what the toe does. That car behind is going to get bigger and bigger on your screen as the speed rises, coming down now to the Mulsanne corner. Look how much more speed Nico Rubelar has, but he says, you know what, I'm not going to make the move here. I'm going to try and get close as I can, use the draft coming up in Indianapolis and make it an easy pass instead of a difficult one.
I love the way you just choose gun whilst he's racing as well. He looks so chilled,
yeah.
Nicholas Rubelar. There's Randy Roos looking a little bit more animated by consequence as well. As you can see, he's now having to try and defend. Rubelar now pulling side by side as they come down in towards Indianapolis. Then Rubelar is through with the slipstream through the right-hander we go. Darush down into P5. Rubelar, the Chilean, up into 4th.
Actually, a bit of communication there between the two drivers. They're sat next to each other. I think he's saying, right, come through, come on. I don't want to fight this. Let's get on with it. Let's try and not lose time with each other. Again, like I said before, trying to work together to get back onto the pack at the front there.
Different tyre compounds for both of these drivers crucially here as well. Rubelar on the softs, Ray and Darush on the medium, so there's not much point really for Darush to get involved in the battle, especially Rubelar for that, because they're both on very different strategies here in this race. Now, what about Adriano Corazza? He's going to have to come in very soon indeed. Will he do it on this lap? Will he do it on the next lap? He's going to do a minimum of 2 laps. He'll have to come in now, won't he, Adriano Corazza? So the Brazilian driver preparing for his final assault here in this race. Now, Ryuta Kokubun's got a half-second penalty there, so he's done track limits as well. It's caught out of quite a few drivers, including this man here, Koke Lopez. So the top 3 into the pit lane now, and Ray and Darush is about to follow suit very shortly indeed in 4th position. So let's see how it all plays out for these drivers as they take on the hard tyres, the slowest compound of tyres, for the final stages then of this race. Now look at the fuel consumption here. Adriano Corazza is going to have to take on a fair bit of it because he's got only 18 litres left. Koke Lopez, meanwhile, has done a good job of saving it. He's got 30 litres left.
Not too much fuel to take on. Hopefully we'll see. Now, what was Lopez pit stop? There you go. So Kokubun there. Again, as you said, Tom, a longer stop for Corazza on fuel. He wasn't in the draft at all there, so he had to use more fuel. And Kokubun goes up into the provisional lead of this race. He does have that penalty, though. Rubelar in, as is Darush, both for the hard compound tyre. Where is Cody? Cody is 3 seconds behind Koke Lopez on a tyre about 3 seconds a lap quicker. And again, another penalty for Kokubun there, just abusing the track limits and getting paid for it as well. So a disaster for the Japanese driver. He's going to have a big hit coming on to the penalty zone, just coming out of Arnage, but Corazza is about a second behind. Lopez 2.5 behind him, and Cody is gaining all the time in 4th position.
Darush and Rubelar seem to have had a bit of a tete-a-tete as well. You can see they're absolutely right for Lukowski and Miyazono, Jimmy, because Miyazono is hopefully going to try and close that gap down to Lukowski and bring it through. The advantage for the Australian here is, of course, his tyres are a couple of laps fresher, or 1 lap fresher at least. There is Kokubun about to serve his penalty, then 1.5 seconds. That's a week in this type of racing, and he's going to have a very hard task to try and close that gap down.
Oh my word,
that was close for comfort, wasn't
That's
it?
a speed differential there of the penalty. Oh, I don't. Yeah.
Made you wince, didn't it?
It did a little bit, yeah. But Karatsa's now back up 2 seconds is the gap. The thing is, Cody is gaining all the time, as is Miyazono. Now the top 3 drivers, all in the hard compounder tyre, have to try and keep as far ahead as possible. The slipstream is the key around here. I cannot stress that enough. Once you're within about a second of the car in front, it's a bit like having DRS. The slipstream is so extreme in this regard. And you'll see Coco Lopez now. He's within a second just about of Ryota Koki, but he's going to go drive up to the back of the car. Look, there is Cody. There is Cody in the background there, and behind him, there is Miyazono. They are charging through on this soft compounder tyre, and as is always with these final events here in the Nations Cup, things are going to go down right to the wire.
It is all to play for in the Nations Cup for World Tour 5 in the grand final. Here is Coque Lopez, the last of the 3 drivers in the top 3 positions on the hard compound of tyres. Now, are they going to feel Cody Lukowski breathing down their neck before too long? I think they are, because he's now fewer than 2 seconds behind, and these guys have to work together if they get involved in squabbles. That is it for them, and Lukowski will be closer to them than ever before. They've got half a lap to go before they come on to the final lap here at Le Mans, and it is getting very exciting indeed, with Cody Lukowski looking and seeking to try and take his first ever World Tour win here, Jimmy, and he's in a very good position to try and do so.
Looking very good for him right now, but he has to really take his time and be patient. Make the smart moves, Cody. Did what you said you were going to do. Don't rush this. You have the car underneath you. You've got to be knife and careful. Coming to the Porsche curve, Cody comes, tries to go up the inside there, but Coque Lopez comes across the defender. Now he's stuck on the inside. That puts Cody in. Cody goes around the outside of the Porsche curves, and there's contact between the two. And again, there's contact between him and Coque Lopez, and my word, that's what I meant. Look, Miyazono's in the background now. He's onto the back of us on the soft compounder tyre, so just like that, Miyazono is back into the frame, but now there's 4 seconds between these guys and the front pack. Miyazono's going to go around the outside, 3 wide, coming into the Porsche gate. Miyazono up into 3rd place, and now he will try and chase down the leaders.
The crowd goes absolutely wild here in Tokyo. Miyazono with an inspired move. He is going to be pushing like his life depends on it on the final lap here of the grand final. There is your race leader, Adriano Carrazza. Ryota Kokibun, Miyazono's countryman, is in 2nd place at the moment. They're both on the hard compound of tyres. There is a gap for Miyazono and Lukowski to make up 4.1 seconds. It sits to Kokibun in 2nd position, but they've got a good amount of time to try and close that gap down here, Jimmy. It is all to play for, and it is getting so exciting. And
a penalty for Carrazza, 0.5 seconds, that's going to change everything. He'll be serving out when he comes out of the first chicane, and that means beautiful Kokibun, and apparently for Lukowski as well. Oh my word, it's getting sloppy now at the moment. Miyazono side by side with Lukowski. They don't need to be doing this. Cody swipes to the inside, takes the defensive line. Miyazono goes around the outside, uses the slipstream. All they're doing is slowing each other up right now. This could be Kokibun's race. Lukowski keeps the inside, but now the penalty is being served at the 2nd chicane. Guys, give us the front. There you go. So Carrazza very slow. Here comes Kokibun. He's got the run. 7/10 of a second, half a second now. Coming down to 2nd chicane. Kokibun look to the inside, I think. Carrazza goes defensive, he swipes the outside, and Kokibun goes up to lead a roar from the Japanese crowd here.
Ryota Kokibun leads in Tokyo on the final race of the grand final here in the Nations Cup. The Japanese driver is on top, but keep an eye out for the man who's close behind as well of Takuma Miyazono. He's ready to close up in these closing stages. Here is Carrazza, though. He's going to try and fight back against Kokibun. Down they go, the Mulsanne straight into the Mulsanne corner, and Carrazza is back in front here.
These guys fighting, they need to fight for Cody to get close. Miyazono and Cody still fighting there back for 3rd and 4th, but now importantly, it's a high-speed game of chess this. Kokibun's in the right place for the slipstream coming into Indianapolis. It's hard to pass coming out of Arnage, so again, we're going to see the draft come into play. The speed increases. Here we go then, coming up to Indianapolis. Carrazza sits middle of the road. Kokibun goes to the outside. Into the slipstream. Round there, to the dirt. You see dust kicked up on the left-hand side of your screen. Now for Indianapolis. And Carrazza looks at his right on the back of the Japanese driver. Into Indy. Almost touches Kokibun as we come into Arnage for the last time. Carrazza sideways.
This is absolutely mega, and Ryota Kokibun, what a move around the outside there. He defends it. Carrazza's off. Carrazza's off and Arnage. And Ryota Kokibun leads the way on the final lap. That is mega, and potentially Lukowski ready to pounce here for 2nd position as well.
So here we are then coming into the Porsche curves for the last time of asking. Cody Lukowski just behind Carrazza Can he come in? Can he gain? My voice isn't going to last this time, I don't think, mate. I'm going to give it to you.
Thanks there, Jimmy. My goodness me, I've never heard anything like that. Dogs could only hear that one. Here is Takuma Miyazono in 4th place. Just in front is Cody Lukovsky, but only a few corners from home now for the first ever Japanese winner in the World Tour event here in Tokyo. Takuma Miyazono there in 4th place, but stand up on your feet and applaud this man here, Ryota Kokuban. Oh, Kuratsu, what a move! I don't believe it! Kokuban gets it back over the line, and Kokuban wins here in Tokyo. Ryota Kokuban is the first ever Japanese winner of the FIA Gran Turismo Championships World Tour event here in Tokyo. What a final lap! That was amazing!
Karatsa gave it absolutely everything and a bit more. I think he might have been a little liberal with the track limits at the end there. Cody walks away dejected, but look at the support there. What a popular victory for Ryota Kokuban. We thought his performances had dropped since his Asia Oceania win last year, but he comes in and shows you just how quick he's able to be. The pack of drivers around him right now, I don't think he can believe it. He turns around to the applause of the Japanese audience, and that is well deserved. Well done, Ryota Kokuban. What a race there for the Japanese driver.
Tears in Ryota Kokuban's eyes up there on stage, and I think tears in a few people's eyes down here as well. That was absolutely mega. It's hard not to get emotional watching it. That is what it means to Ryota Kokuban. That is what it means to the audience. Mikhail Hazal congratulates Kokuban, and crucially, he qualifies and will take to the grid in the World Final in Monaco in November. What a weekend's worth of racing. Jimmy, I think we went hypersonic at the end of that one because I just couldn't believe the audacity of the last corner there from Karatsa.
I'm glad this is the last race. I'll tell you that now. The voice is probably not going to last much longer. But what a finish, my word. I mean, absolute dive from Karatsa at the end, but you have to do it in that circumstance. You have to try, but part of me is glad that Kokuban held him off.
You could see, like, honestly, you could literally just see, first of all, everyone stormed the stage, and then he's like almost in tears. That's how much it means. That's the kind of real pride behind, you know, like the Nations Cup. Not at that moment. We've seen a little bit of teary on the podium, you know, but not that kind of like a visceral reaction, like right off the bat.
It's hard not to get emotional, isn't it, watching it? That's the thing.
Well, I mean, that was such, it's sort of, you know, like we were looking through it and it all seemed quite steady and quite and then just that last part was just so scrappy, and everyone you could see was just fighting tooth and nail to push through. I mean, Lukovsky, geez, again, we've got another, like, another...
That's a story there. I think another word with Kokuban after that.
Yeah.
I think those two will be having words with one another, that is for sure. There is Ryota Kokuban in lap 3, getting himself up into 2nd position. Then you can see a little bit further on in this race, it's all kicking off. There was a penalty for Salvatore Mariglino, and it was the strategy that proved to be this hugely interesting point in that race. Adriano Karatsa was mugged by Ryota Kokuban in the pit lane. Less fuel to take on board there for Kokuban, but a penalty really cost him dear. He had 1.5 seconds. They were so close to coming together on the Mulsanne straight there. So lucky they didn't, because that could have ended both of their races. And then it was in the closing stages where it all kicked off here. You could see Lukovsky, you could see Lopez and Miyazono coming through. What a move there from Miyazono.
That's just completely text mark Miyazono there, right around the outside. And here's where it all changed. Karatsa and Kokuban just swapping place all the way through. Just a high-speed chess game at that point. Kokuban there taking the lead into Indianapolis, but of course it all came down to the last chicane where Karatsa went for a last-minute dive. Here it is there, just sends it from 1.5 miles back. Kokuban had none of it. Came across the line, our first ever Japanese winner at one of these World Tour events. And look at that, look what it means. And look, watch to the left, watch these people run on now. There it is. Awesome.
Oh, I'm so happy we had that moment. It's such a beautiful moment, because it means something to all of them to represent their country, like, whilst we're here. So yeah, you can obviously feel there's some heartfelt emotion. I mean, you know, whatever you say about Lukovsky, he created an opportunity for a very spectacular end game.
Definitely, and again, another third for him, but there are confirmed results. Ryota Kokuban takes the win here at the Grand Finals Nations Cup in Tokyo. What a result for him. Karatsa, 2nd place. Whatever you say, still a good result. 2nd place is good. And Lukovsky, of course, rounding off the podium. Another P3 for him. He'll be disappointed, but still another podium.
Yeah.
Very true, yeah.
Mega, look at the Japanese crowd here as well. Look at how happy they are to be here. And I tell you what,
Honestly, some of them have just walked through, like the Tokyo Motor Show. They're like, oh, what's that? And then they've just stayed here. They've been here the whole time.
Couldn't be a better place for it to happen here in Tokyo. Let's hear from our winner, Ryota Kokiban there. Look at the round of applause from our crowd here. Let's hear what he's got to say. We'll translate for you. And saying, how do you feel after that? I'm really happy is his response. When the race ended, we saw other Japanese players entering the stage. Yeah, so I think it's a very precious opportunity for something like this to happen, for racing like that on the final lap to happen, and it was very close competition as well. I felt the pressure after that over the course of the race. But the other players were also receiving penalties as well. I felt the pressure after receiving that, and you know, it was a little bit better because of that. He's always saying that he runs in lower positions during qualifying sessions, but he had really good momentum from the qualifying that he had, and great momentum in semi-final too there as well. So he'd like to keep this momentum going into the world final as well. I'm going to remember my win in Tokyo, and I want to play with my best of my ability in Monaco as well there. Huge congratulations to Ryota Kokiban, our Nations Cup winner for World Tour 5 here in Japan. Here's the final results then. Kokiban takes the victory, takes the checkered flag just ahead of Adriano Carrazza. What a last lap, what a last corner as well. He had to try it, didn't he, Carrazza? It didn't pay off, but he finishes in second place, his best result in the World Tour to date so far this year. Koda Likovsky in third. Takuma Miyazono, he'll be relatively disappointed actually with P4 given how well he did so far this weekend.
Yeah, I think it's been a really interesting stop on our World Tour. Obviously I wasn't here last time, you guys were here last time. Was it kind of similar kind of vibe?
Well, I was here last time.
I wasn't. No,
you know,
you and me both. We're in it together, Jimmy.
All I can say is it has grown massively since then. Last time it was like a little event in a little area over there. Now we have this massive crowd here, and this just completely changes the atmosphere and the dynamic. And all I can say is the momentum is with this right now.
Oh, definitely.
It's great to be part of the ride.
Like, one of the things I love most about GT is just the fact that it doesn't matter. I haven't got to explain anything to anyone about how it works. Anyone can just wander up and they're like, what's going on? Ah, okay, I get it. And that's it's so appealing.
I love the fact it doesn't discriminate either. You know, you can be 8, you can be 88, and you can come here and, well, you can't come here and compete in the World Tour events, but you can play on
I don't know. We need to obviously reach out to some of the OAP drivers.
Exactly. I think it's a possibility. The OAP GT World Tour. Why not?
Why not? They have the silver snipers. What are those guys who are like in the? They play like shooter games, but they're like a whole OAP team. Amazing.
I'm already about 58 in my head, so I can still commentate on that.
There you go.
Good.
There you go. You're a shoo-in.
Goodness me. No, it was just mega, wasn't it? And the fact that you can be any age and compete in Gran Turismo at any level, come here to these World Tour events and do the things that these drivers did here today is just absolutely mega. And I think it's time then for the award ceremony to get underway here in Tokyo. There's our Japanese commentators just saying thank you to the audience. And then a round of applause for everybody as we welcome our top 3 finishers on to the podium positions.
Certified Gran Turismo Championship 2019 World Tour Round 5 Tokyo Nations Cup. On 3rd position from Australia, Cody Latowski.
第3位オーストラリア代表コディ・ラトコフスキ選手です。
And on 2nd position from Brazil, Adriano Carrazza.
第2位アドリアーノ・カラッツァ選手、ブラジル代表、お見事でした。
And please everybody give it up for the winner from Japan, Ryota Kokiban.
そして地元日本見事な優勝でした国分亮太選手です。おめでとうございます。 それでは優勝した 称え日本の国歌斉唱を行います。ご起立ください。
And now then, it's time for the national anthem of Japan. For the awards to be
ま
presented.
ず3位に輝きましたオーストラリア代表コディ・ラトコフスキ選手。プレゼンターはソニーインタラクティブエンターテインメントワールドワイドスタジオプレジデント吉田修平さんです。そして準優勝2位に輝きましたブラジル代表アントニオ・アレンザ選手。プレゼンターは JAF モータースポーツ部スポーツ科上田由美子さんです。そして FIA グランツーリスモチャンピオンシップ2019ワールドツアー第5戦ネーションズカップ見事優勝に輝きました日本代表国分亮太選手です。プレゼンターはグランツーリスモシリーズプロデューサーポリフォニーデジタル代表取締役プレジデント山内和則さんです。まずはトロフィーが
Ryota Kokuban takes his and Japan's first ever win in the FIA Gran Turismo Championships World Tour. He qualifies for the final, he takes home a trophy and a Tag Heuer watch as well. Standing on top of the podium with his Michelin cap on. There is the timepiece that Kokuban will take home. Hopefully he's on time for the party later because I reckon there's going to be a pretty wild celebration.
I think that's a moderate to large understatement.
A big applause to the winner!
This has been such a special stop on the World Tour. I mean, do you remember the first time we actually had the Japanese drivers come over and everyone from Europe was like freaking out because they were really quick and we were all like, well, how's it going to work? And they've so become like part of the kind of whole like GT family. And it's one of the best things about it. We've got people from all corners of the globe, you know, and everyone comes together like a family, everyone just with a passion for racing and for driving. And honestly, I feel like really warm and fuzzy at the end of these. Do you not?
Well, that's it. I know it sounds cliche to say, but we're all one big family here. And Kokuban's victory is everyone's victory. Everyone's so happy for him. And despite them not being there themselves, getting to experience that, getting to experience Kokuban's first victory, I think is a big thing for everyone here.
Yeah, well, it's not over yet because we are going to deep dive into talking to our 3 podium winners in just a few moments in the extra lap. And, you know, we're going to take a quick little break now, but we'll see you very soon for that. And we'll find out also who our Michelin driver of the day is in just a few moments. See you then.
to Tokyo. Welcome to World Tour 5 and the extra lap. It is time for our post-Nations Cup live show. It's great to have your company. My name is Tom Brooks. Alongside me is the lovely Jimmy Broadbent. And we have had some scintillating action in the Nations Cup for World Tour 5 here in Tokyo. And we're going to be talking to our top 3 finishers on the Nations Cup podium as well. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. I'd like to welcome up onto the podium in 3rd place Cody Lukovsky, in 2nd place Adriano Corazza, and our winner here in Japan of Ryota Kokibun. Great to have you all along. Ryota, first of all, let's ask yourself, you're the first Japanese driver to win a World Tour event. How do you feel here today?
自分が本当に勝てると思っていませんでしたが、予選から本当に流れができて、勝てたことが奇跡だと思うぐらい本当に嬉しいです。
Yeah, so it's something I didn't really expect, but everything just played out pretty well. But to be honest, it's quite a miracle that I won.
Ryota, I had the absolute pleasure of being here last year when you won the final across the road. I think it's fair to say since then you've had a bit of a dip in form. What does it mean now to be back on that top step of the podium?
今までのワールドツアーで本当に下位に沈んでばかりで悔しくて、もう本当に練習を重ねてきて、その結果が今回の結果につながったのかなと思っています。
So yes, so basically I did have a lot of misfortunes in the previous events, but I used that experience and put in lots and lots of practice, and I think you're seeing the fruits of that today.
Well, Ryota, big congratulations on your result here today, and we look forward to seeing you at the World Final in Monaco.
Thank you.
There we go. Fantastic to see Ryota Kokibun taking a fairy tale win here in Tokyo. It was so nearly to be for Adriano Corazza. I mean, Adriano, you gave it as good as you could. That last corner lunge on Ryota was spectacular. Just talk us through the race from your point of view.
Yeah, it's a real bit disappointed, but I'm not angry with me because I will competitive, and the rest I got the penalty in the last lap. So when I see, I can't believe. But I'm not angry. I happy to be here, to be in 2nd place. Is good.
Well, do you hope to carry this form, of course, across to the next event? I mean, I think, again, fair to say, we don't usually see you in the top 3 in these events. Now you're 2nd, nearly won the thing. Want to try and carry that momentum to the next event?
Yes, it's my sixth event and the first podium. So I always practice in my home very hard, and I love this game. I always play, so that is good for the next event.
Well, Adriano, huge congratulations on finishing 2nd here in Tokyo. Let's go over to Cody Nikola Lukovsky. Cody, it was an interesting race, that final one in particular. You had good pace, but it was all down to strategy at the end of the day, wasn't it? And what tyres you were on?
I think I didn't make the most of the first half of the race. I just simply was falling behind on the mediums. You guys were definitely seeing Nicolas Rubilar. He was making the most of the front runners battling, and he was able to keep up with those guys on softs. And I just simply couldn't. I didn't have any pace whatsoever. But as soon as the further the race moved along, the more confident I got in my car, and the strategy started playing out. I didn't get any penalties, as Lasarth is very well known for in Gran Turismo Sport. And on that last stint on the softs, I was just giving it everything. Unfortunately, I had some contact with one of the drivers that was in front of me coming into the Porsche curves. That definitely played a role in getting me in 3rd and almost robbing me of 1st, I would say. But yeah, it happens, and yeah, I don't have any hard feelings for the driver who did it.
Well, Cody, I was kind of joking before we came on air that you've got about 6 of these hats now, haven't you?
Something about that.
Do you think you have the speed to win one of these events?
I think so. I believe that I have that speed. I just need to get confidence at the start of the race. Usually you'll see me kind of falter a bit at the start. I won't be quite as strong as some of the other front runners. yeah, I just really need to work on myself, getting that confidence boost at the start and making that last the entire race. If I can do that, and I can do it in time for Monaco, I think I'll be in a good spot to possibly contend for the world title.
Well, lovely to hear from all three of you. Cody, Nicola, Adriano and Ryota, thank you so much for joining us here on the Extra Lap show in Tokyo. Big congratulations to you all. Anyway, we're going to take a short break here in Tokyo. We'll be along the way with more action in a few moments' time. Julia will be with our Michelin Driver of the Day.
For the players.
Welcome back. I'm here at the desk with our Michelin Driver of the Day, Ryota Kokuman. How are you doing? How are you doing? Yeah.
I'm so happy.
Yeah, so I can see, so happy. How do you feel to be voted Michelin Driver of the Day?
まさか自分が選ばれると思っていなかったので、嬉しいです。
It's not something that I was expecting, to be honest, so I'm really happy.
Why do you think everyone voted for you? What was so great about your driving today that made everyone vote, do you think?
全く想像がつきませんが、まあ、自分でも投票されるようないい走りができたのかなって自分でも言うのはあれですが嬉しいです。
Frankly, I have no idea at all, to be honest. But maybe I put together the kind of racing that made people want to vote, and so I'm really happy.
Are you proud with your performance today?
本当に予選からいい流れができて、まあ、本当に決勝もいいパフォーマンスで走れたんじゃないかなと思っています。
Yeah, I think basically my route through the whole of the tournament from the qualifiers went really well, and I think my performance in the final was also very good. So yeah, I'm very proud.
I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
How are you going to? You're going to come to the world final now in Monaco. What's your strategy?
そうですね。予選まずうまく決めないといけないということはもう大前提なので、そこからまずもっと今回のように、予選をまずバッチリ固めて、そしてから決勝もうまく走れるようにしたいです。
So yeah, so the qualifiers, I understood from today that it's really important that you get a good start in the qualifiers, and so I'm going to use that experience for the finals. Make sure I put a good steady run in the qualifiers and put that through hopefully to the final race.
I'm sure you will. You did so well today, and everyone was cheering, and everyone was so very happy for you. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Good luck in the world final. And it's goodbye from us here in Tokyo. We will see you next month for our World Tour final. It's all getting very exciting. I can't believe the season's almost over, but it's goodbye from all of us here, and we will see you next month in Monaco.